Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Umineko Chapter 8. We recently finished that exciting whodunit. That was quite enjoyable, if a little bit bizarre. Thanks, Burncastel, I guess. And we've woken up once again in Featherine's house. Oh boy. Is this NJ's perspective? Because I feel sorry for NJ being held captive by Featherine like every other chapter now. Alright, what story are we going to be forced to read for her? I mean, it could be worse. On one hand, Featherine imprisons you in her house for like a day or two. On the other hand, you're locked out of space-time so you don't actually lose anything. And all you usually have to do is just read a story she's written to her. I mean, it could be worse, right? It could be so much worse. Like, yeah, if I'm going to be taken hostage by someone, I'd vastly prefer that they just, force me to read them a lame-ass... It's not even a bad story. Just read their own They're like, fairly well-written fan fiction. And then move on with my life rather than, have my life threatened. And, they take everything right now, though. She's just taken, like, a mental day of my time to read her a story, which isn't the worst. Slowly, I open my eyes. I'm assuming this is NJ. It only makes sense, as after all, NJ has just come to the realization of the fact that she's like a witch of truth. It would make sense if it was NJ here. Wait, when did I lose consciousness in the first place? I don't remember going to sleep or falling unconscious. That's right. Burncastel invited me to come to a place better for drinking tea. Oh, is this Battler? That's when my memory gets hazy. This is Battler then. This isn't NJ? Since the smell of black tea is what woke me up. Where am I? NJ, you should recognize this place. Oh, it's Aurora's... Oh, Aurora's study. I hate to admit it, but her taste in tea is really excellent. Really is excellent. I can see why she'd hate to admit that. I was sitting on what appeared to be a sofa in a dimly lit study. Burncastel sat across from me. And right before my eyes was a beautiful cup filled with hot, steaming tea. Isn't this place? I remembered. That's right, we've been here before. I've been here before. See? Wasn't it? How pleasant it is to see you again, child of man. Oh boy. Here we go. Yes, that voice. Just hearing it brings back memories. Just hearing it brings back those memories. Long time no see. My master. I didn't think I'd get the chance to welcome you into my study again. I think this game of yours is still continuing. Okay. Won't be continuing much longer. This is the end, the true final game. True, there aren't any more chapters written, so I would assume it's the end. This was the study of Featherine Augustus Aurora. Majestic witch of theater-going, drama, and spectating. Once in the past, I was summoned by her and ordered to be her reader, her Miko. Don't tell me, you want me to read again? I wasn't the one who called you here. Oh, who the hell called me here? My Miko brought the two of us together. But why? Isn't it obvious?
真実に至るための道しるべを示すためよ。
To show you the path that leads to the truth. Time to start sweating nervously. Oh boy.
フェザリーヌが私に示してくれるの？
You'll show me the way, Featherine? At this point, we'll take anything that leads to the truth.
私は感激の魔女だ。
I am the Witch of Theater going.
舞台の上の役者に干渉することはあまり好まぬのだがな。
I dislike interfering with actors on the stage. Yeah, she's a witch of theater going, not a witch of action.
バトラの退屈な芝居を感激するのと、
So, would you rather watch Battler's boring play?
私の手による運命の分岐を司る刺激的な芝居を感激するのと、
Would
ど
you
っちを
rather
好むのかしら。
my exciting one that manipulates the branching
退
paths of
屈
fate?
に1分1秒だって耐えられないくせに。
I know you can't stand even a minute of boredom. That seems like a tempting offer for a witch, as a witch's natural enemies are boredom and reality. As Featherine rocked her rocking chair, she looked up at the ceiling and chuckled. She clearly holds some key to the truth I seek.
鍵を握っているのは文字通りそなたではないか。
And yet you are literally the one holding the key.
私にできるのはその鍵で開けることのできる鍵穴を教えることだけだ。
I can do nothing but tell you where to find the keyhole, child of man.
あらあら。
The keyhole, I see. I don't remember saying anything out loud, but Featherine answered my question as though I had. Fair enough. Come to think of it, that's right. Battler gave us a key, right? Featherine can read the thoughts of a mere child of man like me as easily as she can hear me speak. And yet she still wants us to read aloud. Well, I guess that'll help us get to the point quicker. It's efficient.
この鍵はお兄ちゃんがくれた。
Oni-chan did give me the key.
でも使うべき時に使い方がわかる。
But then he told me something about how I'd know how to
何
use
に
it
使
when
え
the
ばい
time
いの
was
か
right.
教えてくれなかったわ。あんたたちは知ってるの？
He didn't say shit about what it was used
こ
for.
の鍵は何？
You two know?
お兄ちゃんはとても大切なものだと言っていた。
What's this key used for? Oni-chan said it was something very precious.
我が巫女よ、説明せよ。
Explain, my Miko.
いやよ。
No way, no way.
あんたが説明しなさい。
You explain.
主に説明をさせようというのか？
Demand our master explain?
たまにはその程度の舞台参加もしなさいよ。
You've got to go on stage every now
ボ
and
ケ
then.
防止にいいわよ。
Otherwise, you'll just get senile faster.
やれやれ。
My, forcing someone like this on stage.
演者の
Aren't
朗
we
読の時
impressive?
に久々の舞台を堪能したので、もう数百年は十分だと思っていたのだがな。
And yet I just enjoyed some long overdue time on the stage when NJ was reader, which should last me several centuries at least. Did she actually do anything?
教えて、
Tell me,
この鍵は何なの？
what is this key?
そなたの決断を具現化したものだ。
A physical manifestation of the decision you are to make. Okay.
この物語は
This tale, this
Game.
game.
そなたにある決断を求めることで終わりを迎える。
It will end when you're asked to make a certain decision.
その決断するという行為を鍵の形に具現化したものが
What you
そな
hold
たの
there
それだ。
is the act of your decision embodied in the form of a key.
私の決断を
Physical manifestation of my decision. Okay,
そういうこと。
exactly.
最終的にあんたはおそらくバトラからその鍵で開けられる2枚の扉の前に立たされ、
Battler was probably planning to end it by putting you in front of two doors, both of which can be opened by the key.
どちらの扉を開くか選択を迫られるでしょうね。
Then he was gonna ask you to choose which door to open.
それくらいは聞かされてる？
Must have told you that much at least, right? He didn't tell us shit.
何も教えてくれない。
He did not tell me anything at all. Yeah, he didn't tell us shit.
しかるべき時が来ればみたいなことしか言わないの。
Just says things like, "You'll know when the time comes."
お兄ちゃんも
Classic lines.
誰も何も教えてくれない。
No one will tell me anything. Not Oni-chan. Not
バ
anyone.
トラはそなたの自由意志による選択を尊重したいのであろうな。
Adler probably wants to respect your right to make a decision of your own free will.
でもエンジェ、
But NJ,
もううすうすは気づき始めてるんじゃない？
you should have started to figure it out by now, right?
何を？
Yeah. Yeah.
バトラはあんたに選ばせたい答えがあるんじゃない？
There's an answer Battler wants you to choose, isn't there? The words made my heart jump in my chest. Yep, Battler's biased towards something. It shows in his story he's telling you what he wants you to choose. He doesn't necessarily want you to believe in the truth, because the truth is gonna hurt. He wants you to choose something else, something easier. Or maybe he's just readying you for the truth and thinks if he gives you some good memories, it'll be easier for you. It was what I'd been thinking. Oni-chan is clearly trying to trick me with a vague tale, almost like a daydream. Okay. So that's your thought? It'll take me even further away from the truth. Yeah, but it's so obvious. Why would you believe it? At the 1986 family conference, everyone had a wonderful time as they faded away. Would you honestly believe that? Everyone's smiling down on you from heaven? You don't need to feel alone even in 1986? So give it your all and live on by yourself? I've clearly sensed Oni-chan's desire to end it like that. Every time I ask him about it, he dodges the issue and says something about how the decision will be mine in the end. Yep.
その通りよ。
That's right.
バトラは一見あなたに公平な選択肢を与えるように見えて、
It might appear as though Battler's giving you a fair choice.
実際はあなたにはっきりとある一方の選択肢を選ばせよう
But
と画
actually,
策してい
he's
る。
trying to get you to choose a certain one of these two answers. Yeah, he's trying to bias you or at least give you some happy memories of your family before you choose them. Depending on how hostile you want to think or how weak you want to think of Battler. Like, depending on how you think Battler thinks you should be thinking, you either get the impression that he's intentionally trying to make you feel... Like, either he's intentionally trying to make you feel like you have some good memories, or he's intentionally trying to warp your perception and make you unwilling to accept the possibility that, like, your family is like not amazing people. He's either trying to make you choose a fantasy. He's either trying to make you choose a fantasy, or he's trying to give you happy memories before you choose a harsh reality. And it's kind of like your perspective that determines which one is which.
そのための茶番のような物語をあなたはすでに延々と見せられているでしょう。
You've already seen the farce of a tale he's using to do that, right? Yeah, of course. It just depends on what you believe a battler is actually trying to influence you to see. That bizarre Halloween party. It certainly is bizarre with everyone acting so strange and friendly, it was almost sickening. And they're taking it really harshly. Alright. But then again, Bernd Castell is one of very harsh opinions. He doesn't really think in relatives or in emotions or communication. Battler has said that his games are communication. And so he's trying to tell NJ something before she makes her decision. But is he trying to lead her away from the truth? I don't know if that's entirely clear. I've already seen more than enough of that tale. So sickly sweet it makes you want to vomit. The thing is, from my perspective, I don't know if Battler's intentionally trying to make you drive you from the truth, or if he's just trying to give you some nice memories before you go to your harsh reality. Because it could just be that he's like, man, this is rough. She's only going to see us as terrible people. What if I give her some nice memories and let her know that like we aren't all terrible? And then she goes into her harsh reality. That might be like a positive spin on things, but I don't know if it's true. Like, the thing is, if it was like subtle and it was like, ah, yes, someone died of an accident and then the things exploded, then you'd maybe be like, he's trying to trick you into accepting a fantasy or nobody's a bad person. But the fact that he's making it so obvious that it's not the truth, like, he's throwing in things that NJ knows no one would ever do. Like, oh, a party just for NJ. A Halloween party that includes gift giving. Like, it's not even Halloween. It's so out there. And Battler's clearly like, yeah, it's not real. Who cares? That it seems more like he's intentionally trying to tell you, this isn't real. And you don't have to accept that it's what happens. But maybe you can see that this is what some of these people might have been like outside of these circumstances. Like, he's trying to tell you a story about things outside of these exact circumstances, so you have some happy family memories when you inevitably like crash things down. When things crash down around you, and you're like, fuck all you. He's like, because like, think of. I think the most obvious choice is like George's lesson, where George is giving you a lesson, where like George is very clearly trying to teach you, NJ, a lesson, but the lesson doesn't seem to be relevant to the story he's actually telling. Like, he's telling you, life might be shit, but like, things might change based on your perspective, but like, it's what you make of it. Life is what you make of it, right? And you have your own control of your own fate. He's telling her that, but that doesn't seem to be relevant to the reality of the family murders. It seems to be more relevant to NJ going forward with her life after this. So it's like Battler's trying to give her something from her family or from him to use moving forward in her life, perhaps influencing her decision towards the end. But like, I think there's some evidence that Battler's actually just trying to give her some good life advice before like she goes out into the world by herself without her family, right? That seems to I think that's kind of my impression, is that Battler's not necessarily trying to clearly fool her, because like it literally took 1 second for her to be like, yeah, this isn't real. I don't think Battler's trying to convince someone that this is real. He's trying to convince you that like, these people, they may not have been perfect, but they had some really good things to her, and he's trying to like sell her really hard on that, or give her some like valuable life lessons in the form of like the riddles and stuff. That's my impression. Where Shirmi Akinzo showered me with affection, where his children swore to support each other, where everyone was filled with happiness and hope.
仲良し小良しで煙に巻いて、私を真実から遠ざけようとしている。
He's trying to trick me with those chummy scenes so he can keep me away from the truth. One possibility.
お兄ちゃんは卑怯だわ。
He's such a coward.
確かに。そなたから見れば卑怯とも呼べよう。
Might be easy to call him a coward from your perspective.
しかし、思い出すがよい。
But remember,
そなたはこのゲームのプレイヤーであり、バトラがゲームマスターだというなら、それは何を意味するというのか。
if you're a player in this game and Battler's the game master, what does that imply?
かつてバトラはプレイヤーで、ベアトはゲームマスターだったわ。
In the past, Battler was a player, and Beato the game master.
そして、二人はそれぞれの真実のために戦ったわ。
They each fought for their own respective truth.
そして今度は
What's happening this time?
私がプレイヤーで、ゲームマスターはお兄ちゃんだわ。
I'm a player and Oni-chan's the game master. Could it be I've misunderstood everything from the very beginning? Oni-chan said he'd tell me what happened on that day. So I assumed following him meant I'd learn everything. Isn't that the same as, say, Oni-chan accepting everything Beato said about the crimes being the work of the witch? What a mistake we've been making, haven't we?
このゲームは 私とお兄ちゃんの戦いのゲームだったの？
This game's always been a fight between me and Oni-chan? Interesting. So Burncastel and Featherine lead you this way because Burncastel only sees games as a fight, but Battler, in the scene, like, immediately preceding this, specifically said that he saw his games as a form of communication rather than a fight. So it's like he's trying to tell her something, because that was the same thing Beatrice was doing, right? It wasn't a fight between them. Beatrice was trying to explain the truth of the island to him, right? And then tell him, like, what he forgot, you know, tell him about his sin, with, like, tell him about the deal with Sayo. That's what Beatrice was trying to tell him, right? She wasn't just trying to convince him magic was real, because there was no way she wins when all he has to do is say magic isn't real, and she can never win. So I think Battler is doing the same thing, where it's like, he doesn't have to convince NJ that this is what happened. He just has to, he's trying to deliver some messages, some advice to her, and then things can end.
それを理解せずにゲームに臨んでいたとは驚きだ。
I'm surprised you joined in without realizing that.
バトラは狡猾だわ。
Battler really is sly.
それをあんたに理解させずに最後のゲームをさっさと始めてしまった。
He quickly started up the final game without letting you realize that simple fact.
まあ、かつてのベアとのゲームもそうだったわ。
Well, it was the same back in Beto's games.
バトラはわけもわからないうちに彼女のゲームに巻き込まれていた。
I mean, Battler was drawn into her game before he knew what was happening.
戦い方さえわからずに。
Before he even knew how to fight.
だから私が教えたわ。
That's why I taught him how.
今度も同じよ。
And now
わ
it's the
けのわ
same.
からないうちにゲームを始められてしまったあんたに私は教えに来たのよ。
You were forced to start this game before you understood anything about it. And I've come to tell you the truth.
あんたは誰と何を戦うゲームをしているのかをね。
Tell you who you're fighting against and for what. NJ doesn't seem happy. I was too shocked to speak. Finally, I realized what I need to accomplish in this game. I've always been passive. I was sure Oni-chan would tell me everything. I naively thought I just had to believe whatever he said.
違ったのよ。そう
I
じ
was
ゃな
wrong.
い。
That's not what this is. It's a battle between me, a seeker of truth, and Oni-chan, who wants to trick me and chase me out into a 1998 where I'm all alone. All this time I've kept on saying Oni-chan was foolish and naive. And now I see I was more naive than anyone else. And yet Burncastel didn't sneer at me. On the contrary, she looked at me as if to say, so you've finally taken your first step.
理解できた？
Now do you understand your purpose?
自分とその鍵の意味。
And the purpose of that key? I gripped the key Oni-chan had hung around my neck. For a while, I shook with an emotion I couldn't even understand. Now that I know Oni-chan tricked me, it'd be easy to hate him. But hating him would be missing the point. After all, this is a game between us. He's done nothing but make optimal moves for winning against me. Games aren't a playful way to communicate. They're a process to decide winners and losers. There can be no fair games. The best strategy is always to trick your enemy into defeat without letting them know the rules before they even know what's going on. In that sense, he hasn't done anything wrong. He's using that sickly sweet illusion to trick me and force me out into a lonely future. They'll be the only ones having a good time in the cat box, and I'll be the one chased out.
ありがとう。
Thank you.
感謝するわ。
Grateful.
ようやく本当の意味で目が覚めた気がするわ。
I think I've finally been able to truly open my eyes.
バトラを憎まないであげて。
Please don't hate
ゲー
Battler.
ムマスターとは本来相手を一方的に騙すものなのだから。
After all, one-sidedly tricking your opponent is what game masters do.
分かってるわよ。
I
お
know.
兄ちゃんはお兄ちゃんの立場で最善を尽くした。
Oni-chan took the best option from his perspective.
ただそれだけということよ。
That's all there is
な
to
ら
it.
私も私の立場で最善を尽くさなきゃ。
So I need to make the best possible moves from my perspective. My goal is clear. Now so clear. October 4th and 5th, 1986. What happened on those days on Rokkenjima? I need to tear off the veil covering the truth. Nothing more, nothing less.
お兄ちゃんは私にこの鍵をお兄ちゃんが望む鍵穴に入れさせたいのでしょうね。
Oni-chan gave me this key probably because he wants me to put it into the keyhole of his
そ
choosing.
のために私に延々と甘ったるい幻想を見せつけた。
Why he keeps showing me this sentimental
でも
illusion.
もうごまかされないわ。
But I won't be fooled anymore.
私は私の望む扉を自ら選んで開く。
I'll open the door I want to open.
ぼんやりとバトラの言いなりになっているエンジェよりはこの方が確かに私の好む物語であるな。
This kind of tale is more to my liking than the one where NJ does whatever Battler says.
じゃあ続きを今度こそあんたに任せるわ。
And this time I'll let you run the show from here
エ
on
ン
out.
ジェに教えてあげて。
Tell NJ.
真実に至る鍵穴を
Tell her where the keyhole that leads to the truth is.
教えて。私にその鍵穴を。
Tell me, where's the keyhole?
いいだろう。
Very well.
まずは腰を下ろすがよい。
Have a seat
今
first.
持ってこようぞ。
I'll go get it for you. When Featherine rose from her rocking chair, my vision seemed to twist and bend. What's this? Some kind of interference? Why now, when Featherine's about to show me something important? Why is my head getting suddenly... I dug my fingernails into my knees, clenching my teeth to keep from losing consciousness. However, the world kept twisting more and more. Except for the feel of the sofa beneath me, I couldn't sense anything at all. Wake up, NJ. Wake up!
登場。
Lady?
先方がいらっしゃったようですぜ。
Looks like they've arrived. The door opened and Hachijo Toya appeared. Wait, what's going on? This isn't the world of witches, but the world of humans? I was sitting on a sofa, and Amakusa was behind me. There's no need to feel confused. Featherine and Hachijo Toya are the same being. To her, the difference between two worlds is a trivial thing. To put it in the words of that theater lover, it's like having a slightly different background behind the stage. So there's no reason for me to feel hesitant.
今度は八条先生と呼べば。
Should I call you Madam Hachijo this time?
名前というもののなんとややこしきことかな。
Hi, how complicated
こ
names
こに
are.
私とあなたがいることに何の変わりもないのに、
Even though both of us are still here as before.
あなたは私を何と呼べばいいのか迷わねばならない。
What to call me?
そうね。フェザリーヌと呼ぶのもあなたにとっては無粋というわけだわ。
Calling you Featherine would be a bit rude to you
役者
now.
にとって自分の演ずる役の名前など仮のものでしかない。
For an actor, the name of the role they act is only temporary.
そういうことだ、人の子よ。
Precisely, child of man.
フェザリーヌ
Featherine? Marcus's eyes went wide as he wondered what I was suddenly talking about. I ignored him and continued.
それであなたは私に何を見せてくれるの？
What are you going to show me? As I spoke, my eyes were caught by the heavy-looking object she held under her arm. At a glance, it looked like an encyclopedia with a fancy binding.
これをご存知ですか？
Do you know what this is? As Featherine spoke, she set the heavy object on the table. The first thing it reminded me of was a grimoire. The heavy book had a mysterious, mystical feel to it, like something Maria One-chan might carry around. And the most remarkable feature of it was the large, sturdy lock that held it shut. Why would someone go so far to keep people from reading a book? Alright. I'm just thinking about this lock, and I'm like, would it not be really easy to It looks like one lock. Would it not be really easy to get around this lock? Would it not be really easy to get around this lock? Like, really, really easy. Like, you just remove the cover and move on? Unless it's drilled into the pages of the book? It seems like you could just cut the cover off. Oh well. Not
手
important.
に取り、裏をご覧になるといいでしょう。
Why don't you take it and observe the back?
裏
The back? I flipped the heavy book over on my lap. And soon as I saw it, I gave a small gasp.
エヴァ
Eva
後ろ宮
Ushiromiya.
後ろ宮エヴァ
Ushiromiya Eva. Without a doubt, the words were written there in Roman characters.
これは何
What's this?
エヴァおばさんの
Eva?
日記
Oh, Eva's diary?
ひょっとしてこいつが噂の
The rumored...
あんた何か知ってるの
You know something about this?
噂程度ですがね。エヴ
Rumor.
ァ会長は秘密の日記を持っていて、それには厳重に錠前をかけていて、
They say President Eva had a secret diary. She always kept it
出
locked up.
先に行く時も必ず持って行ってたって話
They
は
say she took it with
護
her
衛
everywhere
仲
she
間から
went. At
聞い
least
た
that's
こ
what
と
I
があり
heard
ます。
from some of the other bodyguards.
秘密の日
A
記
secret diary. Himitsu no Niki. Secret diary.
それがどうしてここに
Why is that here?
後宮エヴァが息を引き取った病室にあったものです。
It was in the hospital room where Ushiromiya Eva passed away. The diary was hidden beneath her bed, so it remained in that room for some time after her death before it was found. By coincidence, it was probably found by someone who worked for the hospital or a patient or their family. Of course, by that time, there was a huge movement dedicated to the Rokkenjima mystery. A locked diary found in the hospital room where Ushiromiya Eva spent her last moments would be absolutely priceless. The discoverer probably handed it over in secret to one of the witch hunters who would be able to accurately determine its worth. Luckily, the witch hunters who got their hands on this book were all noble and upright people. Not content to boorishly destroy the lock and reveal the truth, they simply satisfied themselves with the fact that the truth of the day slumbered just on the other side of this mysterious lock. Right. Thanks to that, Ava's diaries remained undamaged to this very day.
後宮家長男クラウスの妻ナツヒは日々の不満や鬱積を
It's already known Natsuhi, wife of Kraus, the oldest son of Kinzo.
日記に記すことでそれを封印するというある種のまじないをしていたことがすでに知られています。
She sealed up all her complaints and repressed feelings by writing them down in a diary which she treated like a charm.
同じことをエヴァおばさんもやっていたと
So, Aunt Eva did the same thing?
可能性はありますな。
Possible, at least.
その日記の蝶つがいを外すのは、たとえ鍵があったとしてもかなり面倒だ。
Opening up a diary like this would be a pain, even if you did have a key.
まるでギチギチのコルセットみたいに封印してやがる。
It's sealed up tight like a corset. Amakusa was right. It wasn't a diary made to be casually opened and reminisced over. It was probably safe to assume she used this diary to forget things by writing them down and sealing them away like Ushiromiya Natsuhi did. Then she brought it with her into the hospital room and hid it behind the bed without telling anyone about it. Okay, did that really happen? Yeah.
まさかこの日記に
Don't tell me, that diary
エ
is...
ヴァおばさんがあの日何があったのかを記し
Are
て
you
いる
saying Aunt Eva wrote down what happened that day?
中を読めば全てがわかるでしょう。
By reading its contents, you'll probably learn everything.
しかし、その錠前を外す鍵の行方がわからないのです。
But we don't know where however, we don't know where the key that unlocks it is. I jumped, then I looked down at my chest. Where my brother hung that key.
Eh?
What?
ない
It's gone. I had the key.
鍵
Key's gone.
どうしたんですお嬢。
What's wrong,
鍵
lady?
って
What key?
私がずっと首にかけてたでしょ
It's been hanging from my neck the whole time, right?
俺は知りませんぜ。
I've never noticed it.
鍵の座ぶら下げてましたか？
You had a key hanging from your neck? I understood almost immediately. In the world of humans, I hadn't found the key. The me with the key is on the game board in the world of witches.
鍵を持っている私に戻して
Make me the me with the key.
この日記を開けるわ
I'll unlock this diary. Featherine lifted a finger, spun it around, and the world twisted again. When I returned to Featherine's study, the key popped back into existence, hanging from my neck. But at the same time, the diary on my lap popped out of existence.
日記はどこに
Where'd the diary go?
ゲーム版のどこかに存在するだろう。
It should exist somewhere on the game board.
そなたに与えられる鍵穴の一つである以上、必ずどこかに存在するはず。
Since it is one of the keyholes you are to be given, it must exist.
お兄ちゃんがどこかに隠している
Did Oni-chan hide it somewhere?
バトラがあんたとのゲームを気取る以上、
Since Battler wants this to be a game between you and him,
それはおそらく完全な意味では隠されて
isn't
いない
hidden
わ。
completely.
どういう意味
What do you mean?
バトラにとって奪われたくないキングであっても、
Even if Battler thinks of this diary as a king he mustn't lose,
それはゲーム版に置かれていなければゲームとして成立せぬということ。
there would be no game unless it exists somewhere on this board.
つまりあの後ろ宮家のどこかにあったということ
In other words, it's somewhere in the Ishiramiya mansion?
あるいは
Somewhere,
すでにそなたには一度目にする機会が与
You
えら
might
れ
have already
ている
been
の
given
か
an
もしれん。
opportunity to witness
詐
it.
欺師が一番最初に見せる契約書に極小の字にてすでに
Like how a
悪辣な
swindler
る
has
罠が
already
記
hidden
して
a
あるか
trap
のよう
in
に。
microscopic letters on the first page of a contract you sign.
バトラがゲームマスターとしてミステリーの作法とやらにのっとるなら、
If Battler follows the customs of the mystery genre as game master, wasn't it sealed in the casket or some shit? It was like the first room you saw. That's what they're suggesting, right?
手がかりは必ず提
Clues
示
must
さ
be
れ、
shown.
バトラが負ける選択肢も必ず提示されている。
The choice that leads to Battler's defeat must have been
Enji.
shown. NJ.
思い出しなさい。
Try and remember.
あんたはすでにバトラの世界でエヴァの日記を見ているはずよ。
You should have already seen Ava's diary in Battler's world somewhere. And in that instant, from the back of my mind, drifted the very first scene of the final game. In the chapel, a book was lying on the altar, a book with a lock on it. As soon as I showed interest in the book, my brother suddenly grew stern and told me not to touch it.
あれがエヴァおばさんの日
That
記
was on Ava's diary?
そうよ。
Right?
後ろ宮エヴァの日記。
It was Ushiramiya Ava's
あの
diary.
日の真実を記した一なる真実の書。
The book of the single truth, with the truth of that day written inside of it.
一なる真実の書
Book of single truth. Is that what we're looking for? Oh, we aren't far from it now.
それに本当の真実が記されているの
Is the truth really
だ
inside?
ってそれはエヴァおばさんの妄言の可能性も
After all, there's a chance it's just something Aunt Ava.
赤き真実で私が断じよ
I'll say it in red.
う。後ろ宮エヴァの日記一なる真実の書には
Ushiramiya Ava's diary, the book of the single truth.
1986年10月4日から5日にかけての六軒島の真実が記されている。
It has the truth of Rokkenjima during the October 4th and 5th, 1986 days recorded within it. So it's absolutely true. Okay, presumably. Presumably Battler won't rescind that truth. Or reject the truth? Or give a more precise truth? It could be. She said the truth of what happened, but here's the thing: multiple things can happen because Leon exists. So it could be a truth, but a truth only for a specific world that isn't the world she lives in. So it's possible that it's not true in some way. The discussions over Berncastell's reasoning game were getting passionate at each of the tables. At some point, each table started competing to see which could solve it first.
ベルンカステル、エンジとエリ
Berncastel.
カはまだ到着しないのか？
Haven't NJ and Erica arrived yet?
もう来てもいい頃よ。
They should have been here
ど
by
っち
now.
が先に到着するか賭けでもする？
Want to make a bet on who arrives first?
エリカが遅くなるのはともかく、エンジェもずいぶん遅くなったわね。
I understand Erica being late, but what about NJ?
一体どこの深淵に突き落としてたやら。
Just what kind of pit did you toss her into this time?
失礼ね。
How rude. Apparently they were in the same pit. What would be the point of looking for the truth of another world? The point is that she asked for the truth, and she didn't. Featherine didn't say, "Here is the truth of your world." She said, "This is the truth." So, like, anyone can deceive anyone to mess with them, right? The witches are just there to alleviate their boredom. So you always gotta suspect that they're only telling you a partial truth or messing with you, especially like Berncastel. So the point is to deceive you into picking the wrong quote-unquote truth. Or it gives you a truth, but it's not the truth you want. Because there's many possible truths.
ちゃんとソファーに紅茶でくつろいでもらってたわよ。
She's sitting on a sofa sipping tea.
ベルンカステル教の好む紅茶がエンジェの口に合うと良いのだがな。
Well, hopefully the sort of tea you drink suits Angie's taste.
確かにな。
失礼ね。
How rude.
誰の口にだって合うわよ。
That tea would suit anyone's
エ
taste.
リカなんか、私の紅茶はポットの最後の一滴からお味噌の壺の底まできれいに舐めとるわよ。
Why, Erica would even lick the last drop of my tea from the bottom of a miso pot.
なぜそこで味噌が出てくるのか、大いに疑問だぜ。
Now part of me's dying to ask, how does miso come into this picture?
それにしても、
Still, it's
エリカか。
Erica.
あやつとは久しぶりの再会になるな。
It'll be a longer way to reunion. It's been like one game, bro.
そういえばそうだな。
Yeah, come to
名
think of it.
探偵殿があのベルンカステルのゲームを解くのにどの程度の時間をかける
I
のか。
can't wait to see how long it'll take her to solve Berncastel's game.
あの子は得意よ。こういうゲームは。
This sort of game is what the kid's best
多
at.
分、上から下までを3度も読んだら、もう答えを出しちゃうんじゃない？
She'll probably read it from start to finish 3 times and then just say the answer right away.
だろうな。正解をご満悦で語る。あいつの顔を早く見てやりたいぜ。
I look forward to seeing her give the correct answer immediately with that smug look on her face.
いやいや、それどころかあやつのこ
Oh,
と。
come on, this is Erica we're talking
い
about.
ろいろとへりくつをつけて、バトラー一家以外にも犯行は可能だなどと言いかねんぞ。
You'll probably pull out some twisted logic and say it was possible for someone other than Battler's family.
だな。むしろ正解よりその自信たっぷりのへりくつが聞きたい気
In
分だ。
fact, I'd like to hear her proud, twisted logic even more than the right answer. Apparently, Battler and Beato are looking forward to their reunion with Erica. They had already dueled with Erica in 2 separate games. By now, there was no distinction between foe and allies. They truly wanted to welcome her to this party after the show as a friend.
それにしても、ちょっと意外な感じ。
Still, it's a bit unexpected.
何が？
What?
だって、
You know,
あんたがこんなにもあっさりエンジェを解放するなんて。
you let NJ go this easily? Making sure Battler and the others couldn't see your face, Lambda Delta snickered.
そんなに意外？
Is it really so surprising?
意外よ。
Of
ベ
course
ル
it
ン
is.
のことだから解放せずに次々とバトラに難問を突きつけていじめ抜いたり、
I thought that being you, you'd torture Battler with one tough puzzle after another before
あ
releasing
るい
it.
はエンジンにおかしなことを吹き込んでゲームを最後にかき回してくれる程度のことはするんじゃないかと思っ
That
て
you'd
た。
at least try to give NJ some weird ideas and never turn the game around at the end. Berncastel be like,
ベルン のことを世界で誰よりも知っているつもりでいたのに。
I thought I knew you better than anyone else in
予
the
想
world.
が外れてがっかりよ。
How embarrassing, I was wrong.
言うわね。
Oh, I'm sure
で
it
も
is.
安心して。
Don't worry.
やはりあんたは私のことを世界で一番理解しているのは間
You
違い
obviously
ない
do
の
know me
だから
better than anyone else in the world.
そりゃそうよ。
Of
こ
course.
のラムダデルタ様は全宇宙で一番ベルンのことを愛してて大好きで理解しちゃってるんだから。
After all, I love it to learn to understand you more than anyone else in the universe. Lambda Delta was flustered by Burncastell's apparently friendly words, which were very rare coming from her. It's almost like she's trying to tell her something over the audience.
バトラス様、
Butler-sama?
ご歓談中失礼いたします。
Pardon me for interrupting your
エン
conversation.
ジェ様がお帰りになりました。
NJ-sama has returned.
おお、帰ってきたか。
Oh, she's back.
よかった。
Great, great.
その、無事か。
Is she okay?
雨に少し濡れてしまったようで、今、熊沢がタオルを用意しております。
Seems she was soaked by the rain, but Kumasawa's bringing her a towel now. When Battler heard this, he breathed a sigh of relief, and then he turned to face Burncastel, showing her a forced smile as though apologizing for still suspecting her just a little. Burncastel showed no emotion and simply continued wearing a blank expression with a slight smile.
エンジェ様のお帰
Yes,
りでございま
Burncastel the
す。
trustworthy. And Jisama has returned.
ただいま。
I'm back.
バトラ
Battler.
エンジェが帰ったぞ。
NJ's back.
エンジェ、よかった。心配したぜ。
I'm glad you're okay. I was worried. She stared at Battler as he dashed towards her with a relieved smile. Enja's expression seemed somehow indifferent.
バトラったらね、
That
あん
Battler.
たのことを私が鎖か何かで岩牢に吊るしてたとでも思ったみたいよ。
Looks like he thought I had you hanging by chains in a cave or something. That's not very creative. And also can't convince someone very effectively.
いやいや、
No, 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 no.
そこまでは思ってなかっ
I
た
didn't
ぜ。
think you'd go that far.
ベルンカステルの友人の家で紅茶をごちそうになってただけよ。
I was just having some tea at the house of one of Burncastel's friends. Ah, just we want. Tea with Burncastel's friends.
なかなか美味しかったわ。
It was delicious. It was delicious.
味噌とか梅干しは入ってなかったか？
Did it have dried plums or miso in it? Apparently not.
入ってるわけないでしょ。
Of course not. As NJ spoke bluntly, she walked right past her brother and exchanged a few whispered words with Burncastel.
どうしたバトラ？
Is it Battler?
ああ、いや、
Nothing.
なんでもない。
Nothing at all. Uh-huh. If he said he was lonely because his little sister was being too cold, Beato would laugh at him or scratch him. You best be careful about that one, my dude. After all, NJ is a girl at that age. That age? What age? She might be in a bad mood for reasons a boy like him couldn't understand. Taking note of this and having satisfied himself that NJ was okay, he made to walk away.
バトラ、
Battler. Battler.
エンジェが呼んでいるぞ。
NJ is calling for you. Look, NJ is calling for us. It can only mean good things.
What?
NJ is calling.
ああ、すまん。
Sorry, sorry.
さっきから呼んでるわよ。
I've been trying to get your attention for a while.
無視しないで。
Don't ignore me.
別に無視してたわけじゃねえぜ。
Wasn't really ignoring you. What NJ? 6-piece, 18. 6-piece, 18 meta, yeah. It's both at the same time, honestly. He probably just thought it was... I don't know which one he thought he was looking at.
なんだよお前。
What's going on with you anyway?
さっきから機嫌が悪いぞ。
You've looked like you're in a bad mood for a while now.
大方ベルンカステル教に珍しい紅茶とでも偽られておかしなものを飲まされたせいだろう。
I imagine Berncastel gave her some sort of strange drink and pretended it was just some rare sort of black tea.
あんたに用はないわ。
I have no
ちょっと
business with
引
you.
っ込んでて。
Back off a bit,
お
would
兄
you?
ちゃんと二人で話がしたいの。
I want to talk to Oni-chan alone.
そうはいかぬぞ。わらわはこう見えても領主夫人。
I may not look it, but I'm the wife of the territory
バト
lord.
ラに関してはすでにそなたよりもわらわの方が。
I'm already far closer to Battler than...
悪い、ベアト。
Sorry,
少し
Beto.
だけ席を外してくれるか。
Do you mind leaving just for a bit? By now, Battler realized NJ's issue was more than a slightly bad mood. Beato puffed out her cheeks as though she wanted to say something more. However, she let it out with a sigh and walked away.
これでいいか。
Is this okay?
ええ。
It is.
だってこれは私とお兄ちゃんのゲームでしょ。
After all, this game's between me and
プ
you,
レイ
right?
ヤーは私。
I'm the
ゲ
player,
ームマスターはお兄ちゃん。
and you're the game master.
私たちの間にいくつ駒が入り込もうと、結局は
No
私と
matter
お
how
兄ちゃ
many
んとの
pieces get
直
between
接
us
の
in the
戦
end.
いであることに何の変わりもない。
Well, that's a long line. It's still a direct battle between you and me.
まあ、
Well, well.
確かに俺がゲームマスターだが、別にお前と戦ってるわけじゃないぞ。
I am the game master, but it's not like I'm fighting against you or
こ
anything.
の最後のゲームは、お前を1986年のロッケン島に招待するために開いたものだ。
This game was held so that you could be invited to the Rokkenjima of
ゲーム
1986.
は勝敗を決するために行われるものよ。
But games are played to decide who wins and who
敵と味
loses.
方が揃って初めてゲームと呼ぶ。
There's no game unless you have foes and allies.
そこをごまかさないで。
Don't try to trick me. Literally quoting Berncastel verbatim. Interesting, right?
お前、
What are you talking about all of a sudden?
何を言い出すんだ。
すっかり騙されていたわ。
You had me totally fooled.
私も最初はお兄ちゃんが1986年のあの日に招待してくれるのだと思ってた。
At first, I thought you'd actually take me to that day in
でも違う。
1986. But it's not true.
これは全部お兄ちゃんの茶番じゃない。
It's all a farce you created, isn't it?
ハマったるい物語でお茶を濁して私を煙に巻いて
You use this sentimental tale to dodge the issue and leave me confused.
孤独な未来へ安っぽい温かさを手土産に追い返そうとしているだけじゃない。
You're trying to chase me out into a lonely future with nothing but this cheap happiness as a parting gift?
私は最初から求めてるわ。
There's only one thing I've been after since the beginning.
あの日ロッケン島で何があったのか。
What happened on Rokkenjima that day?
それに対するお兄ちゃんの答えがこのゲーム。
And the only answer you gave me was this game.
この甘ったるい幻想パーティー。
This sentimental party of
私の
illusion.
問いに対するお兄ちゃんの答えはもはや明白だわ。
Obvious how you're gonna try and answer my
私
question now.
は真実が知りた
I
い。
want the truth,
そしてお兄ちゃんに教える気はない。
and you aren't going to give it to me.
エンジェン、いいか。
It's NJ,
So
listen, you
janai.
got it wrong.
ごまかさないで。
Don't try and
これは
trick me.
私とお兄ちゃんの最後の戦いのゲームだったのよ。
This game is the final fight between me and you.
私はあの日の真実を求める。
I want the truth of that
そし
day.
てお兄ちゃんはあの日の真実を幻想で覆い隠そうとし
And
て
you,
る。
you're trying to hide it behind an
何
illusion.
も変わらない。
It's the
お兄
same.
ちゃんとベアトが戦ってた時と何も構図は変わらないのよ。
The setup is no different between than those fights between you and
もう
Beato.
すぐで私はお兄ちゃんに全てをうやむやにされたままゲーム版を追い出されるところだった。
I was about to be chased out of the game board with everything still vague and fuzzy
もうあい
because
に
of
く
you.
ね。
Well, sorry.
私はもうこの
I've
ゲー
already
ムは
figured it out.
私とお兄ちゃんの戦いであることを
This
理
game
解
is
し
a
てるの。
battle.
もうこれ以上は簡単に騙せると思わないこと
Think
ね。
you'll trick me so easily anymore? Enji's shout tore apart the peaceful atmosphere. The family's members and the illusions gulped and watched the scene, wondering what was going on. Beato tried to run up to Battler, but he motioned for her to stay back.
何が望みなんだ
What does you want?
最初からただ一つ
There's only one thing I've ever wanted.
1986年の
The
ロ
truth.
ッケン島の真実
The truth of Rokkenjima
それだ
1986.
けを私は求めてる
All I'm looking for.
真実は猫箱の中に封じられてる
The truth is sealed in the cat
猫
box.
箱の外のお前にはたどり着けない
It can't be reached by someone outside the cat box like you.
だからこの甘ったるい幻想で私をごまかそうと
Is that why you're trying to trick me with this sentimental illusion?
確かにこれは幻想だ
Yes, it's an illusion.
だがお前にこの楽しい雰囲気を親族
But I want you to remember this fun
和気
atmosphere,
あ
the
いあいとした
harmony
気持
within
ち
your
を
family.
あの日あの島で何があったかじゃない
It's not about what happened on the island that
お
day.
前が忘れてしまった親族会議の温かな雰囲気を思い出してほしかったんだ
I wanted you to remember the warmth of these family conferences, the warmth you forgot.
それはお兄ちゃんが押し付ける一方的な幻想よ
Just an illusion you're trying to impose upon me.
私はそれを断固拒否する
I'll
拒絶
reject
する
it. I'll deny it completely.
1986年の真実は存在しない猫箱の中は虚無だ
The cat box is empty inside. You're looking for something that doesn't exist.
私はもう騙されないわよ
I won't be tricked
存
anymore.
在するのよあの日の真実は
The truth of the day does exist.
それは唯一の生還者によって書き残され現存している
It was written down by the sole survivor and preserved to this very day. Barrel's expression faltered for an instant and NJ didn't miss it. But he was hiding it after all. Oni-chan has been hiding the book of the single truth from me.
エヴァおばさん
エヴァ
あんたが死んでから
Aunt Ava.
私は初めて感謝するわ
For the first time since your death, I'd like to express my
あんた
gratitude.
がしっかりとあの日の真実を書き残してくれていたおかげで
Because
私は真実を知る最後の機会を得た
エンジェちゃん聞いて
you wrote down what happened that day, you gave me one last chance at learning the truth. NJ, you have to
あ
listen
の
to me.
日記はおばさんのデタラメが書いてあるだけで何の意味も
Everything I wrote in the diary is nonsense. It doesn't mean
ごまかしは不要よ
there's no point trying to deceive
あん
me.
たの日記にはあの日の真実が記され
It's
てい
already
ると
been proven in red
すでに赤き真実で断じられているのよ
that your diary has the truth of that day in it.
バカな
Sorry.
ゲームマスターのバトラ以外の誰が赤き真実を使えるというのか
How could anyone but Battler or the Game Master use the red truth?
アウアウローラね
It's Ao Aurora, wasn't it? Isn't it? It is. I could have gotten away with this if it wasn't for that darn blasted diary. You kids in that blasted diary.
正解よ
That's right.
一なる真実の章は1998年という未来世界の存在
The book of the single truth exists in 1998, the world of the
その
future.
中身に赤き真実で保証を与えるという大役が他の誰にできるっていうの
Who else could perform the crucial role of confirming its contents with red truth?
ベルーンカステルは全てを教えてくれたわ
I heard everything from Burn
私は
Castle.
もうお兄ちゃんに騙されない
I've been fooled by you long.
私が欲しいのは甘ったるい幻想じゃない
I don't want some sentimental
本当の
illusion.
真実
I want the real truth. Alright,
そ
NJ.
してそれをいくら1986年のお兄ちゃんが覆い隠そうとも1998年の私には暴くことができる
No matter how hard you try to cover it up in 1986, I can expose it in 1998. After all,
1986年のベアトリーチェがお兄ちゃんで私は
after all,
1998年のベアトリ
you
ーチ
may,
ェだから
you may be the Beatrice of 1986, Oni-chan, but I'm the Beatrice of 1998. A cyclone rose up around NJ. It was a golden swirl of gold butterflies, and just like the Golden Witch Beatrice,
我こそは1998年の最後の黄金の魔女エンジェ・ベアトリーチェ
we got a costume change! NJ Beatrice got a costume change! Oh shit, she's got her whole sprite there. Alright. Alright, the witch who rules over the future. That's right. Beatrice. The witch who rules over the future in the year 1998. She stands completely outside the cat box, making her entirely different from all the other witches. Just what will she find in this final game? She's gotten an upgrade. Alright, alright. Like, what do we think? I think her outfit's good, right? I think the outfit's pretty solid, even if her hair is at odds with the blue. The outfit's really good. It works well enough. I mean, I swear, every witch have have frilly stuff. I guess everyone but Featherine is all about that frilly shit. Not complaining. I'm just like, oh, it's curious. They all seem to have it. Yeah, the only who doesn't is Featherine. Even Lambda Delta has frilly stuff. All right. Looks good. Looks good. I like the outfit. Where is... Oh, I guess we don't have Virgilia here. But that's fine. That's fine. Featherine stands above witches, so she doesn't have frilly shit on her outfit. The final Golden Witch reveals herself and announces her presence. Alright. No witch of the past can defeat a witch of the future. Cyclone of gold broke apart, and as gold leaves scattered across the room, the final witch who would inherit Beatrice's name in the future appeared.
NJ Beatrice.
NJ Beatrice?
あんたは黄金と無限の魔女。
You're the golden and endless witch.
私は違う。
But I'm no
黄
different.
金と真実の魔女。
I'm the golden witch of
いか
truth.
なる幻想も私を拒むことはできないわ。
No illusion will stand in my way.
お兄ちゃんの退屈なパーティーはもうおしまい。
Yes, this is the end of Oni-chan's boring
こ
party.
こからは私のパーティーになるわ。
And now it's time for my party to
パー
start.
ティーを賑わせるゲームだって用意してきた。
I've even readied a game to liven
よろ
things
し
up.
くね、エヴァおばさん。
You're up, Aunt Ava.
え？
When NJ snapped her fingers, she vanished along with a swirl of gold butterflies. Replacing her in the middle of that cyclone is a girl wearing a dress, bowing modestly. You.
失礼しちゃう話よね。
That's pretty rude, you know?
私にだけパーティーの招待状がないなんて。
Inviting everyone to the party but me.
そなた。
You're
エヴァ。
Ava. The Ava of the world NJ comes from too, right?
私はロッケン島の唯一の生還者。
The sole survivor of
そ
Rokkenjima.
して
Witch of the future.
1986年から1998年まで黄金と無限の魔女を名乗る
The
未来
golden
の
and
魔
endless
女。
witch. From 1986 to 98.
バトラ君の甘ったるい幻想なんて未来の世界では湖面に落ちる一粒の雪より儚いわ。
In the world of the future, Battler's sentimental illusion is more fragile than a flake of snow on a lake.
さあ楽しんでちょうだい。
Alright, let's have some fun.
さあさあ思い出してごらんなさい。あなたたちの無限の推理を。
Come, try to remember, all of you. Remember your endless theory making. When Ava held her hand to the heavens, light gathered there and took the form of a bottle. Yes, a bottle. A glass bottle with no label. There was no alcohol inside. Sealed within it was a fragment that let off a pale, sinister light.
バトラ。それはまずい。
Battler, this is bad.
割らせてはならぬ。
She mustn't smash that bottle.
さあショータイム。
It's showtime! The bottle was slammed against the floor and smashed to pieces. As soon as the fragment within it touched the outside air, it flashed white and burst, and at first it seemed nothing had happened. However, Ava grinned at them before becoming a cloud of butterflies and vanishing. At some point, Burncastel must have vanished as well.
あいつ何をしやがったんだ。
おそらく未来の世界より持ち帰った
It was probably a fragment she brought back with her from the world of the future.
未来の猫箱の中身とでも言おうか。
Perhaps we would call it the contents of the cat box in the future.
つまりどういうことだ。
What does this mean?
なんだ。
What? What? At that moment, they heard a thundering roar. It was as though large chunks of hail started falling everywhere. An earthquake accompanied that noise, and the whole mansion creaked. Dust began falling from the ceiling. At the time, it seemed as though the curtain-covered window glowed with a pale light.
一体何事だというの。
What on earth is going on?
キリエ、外。
Kyrie, look outside.
何よあれ。
The hell's that? Everyone rushed to the window in response to her voice. Of course, Battler and Beato went too. Then they drew the curtains and looked at the scene outside and were stunned into silence. Oh, beautiful. Kinzo's words echoed the first impression felt by all who looked out at the scene beyond the windows.
美しいものが無害とは限らねえ。
Not all beauty is benign.
美しいなんとかにはトゲがあるのはお約束に。
Well, they always say beauty has thorns. Though everyone found the scene beautiful, they all sensed impending misfortune from it. Outside the window, countless small objects, pale, glowing fragments of crystals lay strewn about everywhere like fallen hail. The word fantastical perfectly summed up the scene that lay before them in the glowing rose garden.
今あそこ何か動いたわ。
I saw something move over there.
おい、あそこに誰かいるぜ。いや、
But what?
あの光るかけらから人影が生え出してる。
That person just grew out of the glowing fragment.
煉獄の七姉妹、戦闘態勢。
Seven Sisters of Purgatory battle formation. With those words of Lucifer's, everyone finally realized they were being surrounded by danger. That's a lot of goat men. A lot of goats. One by one, the countless fragments shook and burst, and large, dark bodies rose up from inside each. There were giants with goat heads, and one after another they appeared from the insides of broken fragments. And Jay's like to Beato, "You've murdered my family long enough. Now it's time for me to get some answers." That's what I'd say. Not time for me to torture my family. We know these goat men are not happy camper feel. Yeah. To be fair, like one of the conclusions you can reasonably come to as NJ is that Battler is intentionally trying to mislead you, which I think the conclusion she's at right now, right? Like she explained it as that's what she's seen based on what Burncastel has told her. But I think you would come to that conclusion independently. At which point, if you think Battler is just doing nothing but trying to deceive you and tell you a happy lie, a Battler is lying to you and everyone else isn't real. So if you reject his entire reality, you may as well destroy it. Those fragments lay all over the rose garden in vast numbers and made the ground glow so that everyone inside was forced to shudder.
45全周警戒。
45 wide area surveillance.
レーダーが真っ白です。
My radar's filled with white.
ジャミングされてるか、もしくは乱反射無数、敵数確認不能。
Or they're being jammed, or the vast number of readings is making a count of enemy numbers impossible. Even as she said this, a glowing rose garden outside the window was being filled with giant goats. The fragments carrying the goats weren't just in the rose garden. They were spread evenly across the entire island. Not just the rose garden, but the entire area around the mansion was being covered with goats by now.
緊急。
Allow us to speak,
包囲されたものと申し上げ立てまつる。
knowing that we're being completely surrounded. NJ might need some happiness? Yeah. I mean, she might need some happiness, but you know, honestly, Battler isn't doing her much of a favor by just refusing to tell her anything either. It's like, tell me the truth. And he's like, alright, I'll bring you to a world of the truth. And then he tells her an obvious lie. And she's like, are you fucking serious? I told you to tell me the truth. He's like, sucks to be you. So I'd be tilted too, right? I'd be tilted too if my brother promised me the truth and then just lied to my face and expected me to be grateful. Like, even if he's saying, well, you need some happiness. Like, fuck, man. I asked for the truth, not a shitty story. Like, it's like your girlfriend cheats on you, so you go to your brother and he tells you like some happy lie about how she just went out to buy a burger or something and it took her 4 hours because her car broke down or something. And you're like, yeah, great. Thanks for the obvious lie, buddy. Because she doesn't own a car. Like, thanks. And he's like, oh, I just thought you wanted to be happy. And I'm like, fuck off, dude, right? Or like maybe you send him to investigate and he comes back with an obvious lie, like the same lie, and you're like, dude, seriously?
Yeah,
know that we are completely surrounded. We noticed.
どうするのバトラ
What do you do now, Padlet?
招待状がねえ客ならお
Only
一
one
人
thing
いた
to
だか
do
ねえ
with
とな
uninvited guests.
こいつらは何者なんだ
Let's chase them
ベ
off.
アトのとこの従者ってわけじゃなさそうだな
Who are these people? I'm guessing they aren't your minions, right, Beato?
ヤギの姿はこのゲーム版の駒の形を模倣しただけのことでしょう。
The goat forms they hold are probably just imitations of the pieces on this game board.
リーチェやリーヤの眷属じゃないわ。
They aren't Riche or Leah's
もっと
minions.
厄介な何かよ。
It's something worse.
なるほど
I see.
ボトルメッセージの具現化というわけですか
So they're manifestations of message bottles.
ボトルメッセージ
Message bottles?
ベアトの
The ones Beato made?
違うな
Not
こい
quite.
つは未来の住人たちの妄想のかけらだ
They're fragments of what people in the future have imagined.
猫箱はそのうちに無限を秘める。
Endless possibilities are hidden within the cat
そ
box.
の結果、箱の外の住人たちはその中身を無限に想像することが許される。
Because of that, outside the cat box, anyone outside can imagine the insides to be any one of an infinite number of things, right? That makes sense? So they're fighting an infinite army?
その無限の妄想がこやつらの正体だろう。
And it seems those endless delusions are the true form of these creatures. Yep. Would that mean that you'd have to use red truth to cut through them? You'd have to use your truth, the absolute truth of what happened in the cat box, to defeat them?
あのヤギたちは
Oh, the goats do to us.
私たちをどうするつもりでしょう。
仲良く握手ができる雰囲気には見えへんで。
It doesn't look like they're here to give us a handshake and a pat on the back.
あいつらは
Those people.
私たちがこの島でどんな惨劇が繰り広げられたかを勝手にでっち上げてはルフして回る最悪の連中よ。
They're making up and passing around of stories, imagining the tragedies that might have unfolded around us on this island.
私が真実を語らないことを面白がり、勝手に次々と惨劇を生み出して。
They found it so fascinating I never talked about the truth. They kept on creating tragedies one after another for their own enjoyment.
なるほど
I see.
1986年の猫箱を勝手に妄想する
So they're
未来の
fragments
か
from
けら
the
たち
future,
ってわけか
imagining the box of 1986 however they please.
未来世界にはありとあらゆる解釈が存在します
In the world of the future, any and all interpretations can and do exist.
それらは私たちが否定しない限り全てが全て真実だと言い張りこの島に居座り
Unless
続
we
ける
deny
ので
them,
す
everyone will be able to claim their own view as the truth and they'll remain on this island.
これは厄介なことになった
What a
ね。
fix we're in. Might have to reveal some elements of the truth.
私たちは包囲され絶対絶命のピンチというわけだわ
Looks like we're surrounded and fighting for our lives.
あいつら何をしている？
What are they doing?
食べてるよ。何か食べてる。
They're eating something.
バラを食べている。
Eating the roses? A crowd of goats was squirming about and doing something. If you looked closely, you could see them sticking their heads into rose bushes and munching away. And it wasn't just rose bushes. Light poles, the bricks of the flower beds, even the stone paving itself, they were biting all of it. Almost as if they're trying to eat up the whole island.
違う。
No.
あれはただ食べてるんじゃない。
食べているんじゃなければ一体何だと。
If they aren't eating, what are they doing?
あれは食っているのでは
It's
な
not
い。
eating.
侵食し削り取っているのだ。
They're eroding it, shaving away at the
この
edges.
ゲーム版そのものをな。
The edges of the game board itself.
ゲーム版を食うだと？
They're eating the game board?
未来の世界では誰もが今日の私たちは惨劇に飲み込まれたと信じてる。
In the world of the future, everyone believes we were swallowed up by tragedy
だから
today.
彼らは和やかに過ごす私たちの真実を認めないの。
That's why they won't accept a truth where we can enjoy ourselves in peace.
過去の真実は未来の真実の前に劣る。
The truth of the past. The truths of the past are subordinate to the truths of the future.
あのヤギたちの無慈悲なる未来の顎と牙は
The
我らの
merciless
真
future
実を
fangs
認めず
and the jaws of those
彼
goats
らの
refuse
期
to
待する
accept
真実で侵
our
食するの
truth.
だ。
They erode it, replacing it with the kind of truth they expect.
ふざけやがって。これが俺たちの真実
Here's
なん
our
だ。
truth. An obvious
勝
lie.
手に未来のそれもよその奴らの期待する真実に塗り替えようとするんじゃねえ。
Now, for those people in the future who have nothing to do with this anyway to rewrite as they please, well, Badler, you probably should have thought of that before you invited someone from the future to your game. And then promised them the truth. Because they'll be really tilted if you sell them an obvious lie. I'd be tilted. I'd be tilted, and I don't even think he was trying to... I don't even think he was actively trying to convince her that was the truth, and I'd still be a little bit tilted. The garden outside the window was now filled with too many goats to count, all chewing away. The repulsive scene stole the words from everyone's lips. They weren't stunned into silence. There was just no point in making a fuss and letting the goats know a certain fact. No point in letting them know that there was plenty of prey waiting in this bright, warm room. Prey that was softer and easier to chew than roses or bricks.
あのヤギ、こっちを見てますよ。
The goat there, he's looking at us.
静かに。騒いではダメだ。
Silence, don't make a fuss.
こっちへ来ますぞ。
It's coming this way.
まずくありませんか。
Jimmy, this doesn't look good. Unusually shaped eyes, I guess? They saw one of the newly born goats slowly heading towards their window. There was already a huge swarm of them in the garden, so it was no surprise when one of them looked around for new prey. It'd see the light from this window. Its immense, eerie body slowly approached. As it grew closer, they could finally see it clearly. The eyes blazed despite being cold, ruthless, and reptilian. Reptilian? Of all... Okay. Those cruel fangs and jaws could tear apart and crush anything. Any fangs that could chew through brick would hardly have a problem chewing through people. Its massive body had to be taller than the windows themselves, and it was lumbering towards this window.
この窓は実は後宮家特注の防弾ガラスだということは。
If only this window were made of special Ushiromiya bulletproof glass.
防弾程度であの巨体の剛腕が防げるとは思えぬぞ。
I doubt even bulletproof glass would stop that thing.
うわー、来た来た、かけてくる。
It's running towards us! Goto, time for Goto to panic and run.
緊急。
Allow me to speak.
この窓を許すことなきなりと知り立て
Know
まつ
that
れ。
this window should not be breached. The power of Cornelia's seal formed a shield around the glass. The goat was blown back, unable to even touch the glass because of this power. Its weight made the earth tremble, and they could feel that clearly even inside. But that tremor also drew the attention of the nearby goats. A pack of goats started shuffling towards them, and a fight broke out as they charged forward, trying to reach this new prey first. The window protected by Cornelia's seal would probably be safe, however there were many windows in the Great Hall. For the first time, those windows became a source of terror instead of sunlight and a lovely view.
ガートルード、
Gertrude.
金慶、この窓を許すことなきなりと知りたてまつれ。
Allow me to speak. No, this window shall not be breached. Gertrude sealed another window. The goats trying to break in through that one were thrown back. At the same time, they heard the crash of yet another window being smashed, scattering fragments of glass everywhere. The mass of goats broke through the window frame and entered the building. It's goatin' time.
下がれ、みんな下がるんだ。
Everyone stay back. On the first twilight, the six chosen by the key. Words really were coming from the goat's mouth, along with a steaming foul breath. However, it didn't get a chance to say more. Forehead, neck, shoulder, chest, side, gut, knee. The stakes of the seven sisters buried themselves deep, one after another.
なんてごつくてまずい貫き心地。
Such rough, unappetizing flesh for piercing.
こんなまずい連中、何匹も食ってらんないわ。
I'd hate to have to gobble up any more of these. There's 3 more. The other windows shattered one after another, and several goats squeezed their way in through the window frames. Their mouths were still stuffed with the bricks they had just been snacking on, and each time they chewed, it made a ghastly sound like bones being crushed.
撃退します。
It'll repel them.
シエスタ隊、近接戦闘準備。
Chester troops prepare for close range combat.
待ちな。ドンパチやっても、さらに騒ぎで他のヤギたちを呼び寄せちまうだけだ。
You start firing, and we'll have all the other goats coming to join the party.
2階へ逃れるのだ。
Let's fall back to the second
階
floor.
段を封印すれば時間も稼げよう。
If we seal the staircase, they'll buy us some time.
みんな、大階段を上がれ。
Everyone upstairs.
急げ。
Hurry. After sniffing noisily as though scanning the smells around them, the goats started chewing on whatever tables, chairs, or curtains were close by. The goats would chew anything to bits as long as it was near them. If the others were careful not to attract the goats' attention, they'd be able to escape from this place. But the humans ran on ahead to the second floor, while illusions who were used to fighting guarded the rear. The goats were completely absorbed by their feast on everything in the hall. By now, they were even brutally chewing away at the portrait of Beatrice, which could fairly be called the symbol of the Ashiramiya family itself.
バトラー、人間は全員2階へ避難したぞ。
Battler, the humans have all taken refuge on the second floor.
よし。ドラノール、すべての階段の封印を頼む。
Delanor, seal all the staircases.
ガートルードたちが行います。
Gertrude and Cornelia will
しか
handle
し
it.
時間稼ぎが必要です。
However, they need more time. All over the mansion, there were loud beating sounds that might be called knocks and the sound of shattering glass.
さて皆さん、
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
お仕事の時間でございますよ。
looks like it's time for work.
煉獄の七姉妹、ここに。
Seven Sisters of Purgatory right here. Beelzebub's the only one that looks happy. Everyone else seems bothered. Leviathan's exceptionally bothered.
さあ行くよお前たち。
Let's go, you
今
little
夜は
lives.
食い放題だわ。
Tonight, it's all you can eat. Ah, that's why.
シエスタ隊、外部タスク、オールスリープ。
Yes, your troops. Hold all
自
external
動更
tasks.
新切断。データは取るな。捕虜は取るな。
Cancel automatic updates, accept no data, take no prisoners.
第7管区アイゼルネ・ユングフラウ
Alright, Sir Jungfrau of the 7th
領
District.
主命令により任務を開始します。
By the territory's lord, carry out your duty.
助立ちするぜ。
All into hand. Does he have his arm again? I think he does.
リオン、お前は足手まといだ。
Leon, you're in the
2階
way.
へ上がってろ。
Go to the second floor.
でもウィル、
Will
ここは私たちに任せ。あなたは
leave
上
this
へ
to。us and go.
あなたにも家族を守るという仕事がありますよ。
You have your own job. Protect your family.
わかりました。
I understand.
皆さん、ご無事で。
Everyone stay safe. The mansion was filled with the sounds of knocking, crushing, smashing, and chewing. The goats in their wave of destruction was drawing steadily closer.
バトラ卿 ガートルードたちが別階段の封鎖を完了しました。
Lord, Gertrude and Cornelia have finished sealing the other
残る
staircases.
階段はこの大階段だけです。
The large staircase here is the only one that remains.
あっちの階段はちっちゃいから早いわね。
The staircases are tiny, they went
でも
fast.
この階段は大きいから時間をかけそうね。
On the other hand, this staircase is huge.
時間稼ぎが大変だわ。
Looks like you have your hands full buying time. Lambda Delta spoke as though it was someone else's problem. Ah, it's great. It only took a glance at her face to see she had no intention of lending a hand. Even so, Beato didn't scold her. This was a game between Battler and NJ. Lambda Delta was only a theater goer who was invited.
悪く思わないでね。
Don't think badly
ド
of
ムに
me.
食われたら私だって死んじゃうわ。
Even I'd die if I was torn apart by nothingness.
悪いけど私は傍観者に回らせてもらうわ。
Sorry, but I think I'll stick to being an observer.
もとよりそなたは傍観者だ。
That's what you've always
助
been.
力を頼めぬのは残念だがな。
It's a shame we can't ask for your help.
気を使ってんだろ。
No, she's being nice.
俺たちの見せ場を奪わないために。
Doesn't want to steal our show.
そういうことにしておきましょう。
Sure, let's go with that. As a Voyager, which Lambda Delta could retreat from this game board to Battlers if she wanted to. In other words, she was the only one who wasn't in trouble now. Those game board Battlers.
ベルンとあんたたちのゲーム見届けさせてもらうわ。
I think I'll watch this game between you and Burn till the end.
応援してるからね。
I'll be rooting for you.
ポップコーンを食べながら。
As you munch on popcorn?
もちろん。
Of course.
今日は醤油バター味にするわ。
I'll have some soy sauce butter flavor today. That seems alright. Lambda Delta vanished with a pop. As soon as she did, a black hole opened up in midair and Gop fell out of it.
バトラー、リーチェ、
Battler,
ちょっと来てくれる？
come here for a
多
second.
分見た方がいいものよ。
You should probably see this.
今すぐにか。
Now?
ええ。
Yes.
行こうぞ。
Let's go.
みんな、ここを頼むぞ。
Everyone, we're counting on you. Hold this position. When Gop snapped her fingers, a large hole opened up under Battler and Beato, swallowing them both. They were spat out into an inky blackness. Both were floating in the night sky. Rokkenjima lay far beneath them, and as soon as they realized this, they shuddered. This...
これは
群れじゃね
It's not just a
え。
crowd.
こりゃ
It's a sea.
海だな。
It was no longer a crowd of goats, but an entire sea of them, just as Rokkenjima poked out from the ocean. The mansion was poking out from a sea of goats.
未来人ってすごいわ。
Who in the future really are
一
amazing.
体この島での惨劇をどれだ
How
け
many
大
of
勢
them
が
have
妄想したと
imagined
いう
the
のか
tragedy
しら
on
ね。
this island, perhaps?
猫箱の外の寝言に過ぎぬわ。
It's nothing more than the worthless drivel of those outside
一
the capital.
掃してくれようぞ。
Let's clean this place up.
それから
Look
あれを
there.
見て分かりにくいと思うけど海岸線を見
It's
て
hard to tell, but look at the shoreline. The
海
shoreline?
岸線
船着き場が分かりやすいわ。
It's easy to make out the harbor. It's on the right beside Beatrice's hut.
よく見て
Look
わか
closer.
る。
Yeah?
まさか
Don't tell me.
ああ、
You're
多
probably right.
そのまさかだな。あいつら
They're eating it.
島ごとな。
They're eating the whole island. A crisis at long last.
さあさあおいでなさい未来のかけらたち。
I'm trying to remember fragments from the future.
虚飾を幻想をまやかしをすべて食らい尽くしちゃえば。
Only you'd chew up the embellishment, the illusions, all the fantasy. As Ava yelled this to the heavens, hovering above the raging sea, hail fell down with a pale glow. Each was an unlabeled bottle with a fragment inside, and they poured onto the island, were smashed to bits, and the fragments inside them scattered everywhere. Every now and then the fragments would split in two, then split in two again. Every single one of them burst and gave birth to a massive goat. To say it was like bamboo shoots springing up after rain would be a vast understatement. The goats writhed about like bubbling, boiling water in a pot. They ate away at everything they saw. They didn't just eat the harbor, but the trees, the rocks, the entire coastline itself. Hundreds, thousands, no, tens of thousands of goats continued eating. They were chewing away at every bit of Rokkenjima of this final game Battler had prepared. Asset reuse. The monster jaws and the exact same game board. Nice. But it's an appropriate metaphor and appropriate visual, so I can't really insult them for it. It's like, that worked. Maybe you'd redraw the figure, but like, this is a good metaphor for what's going on. That works. They were chewing away at every bit of Rokkenjima, of this final game that Battler had prepared.
悪いわね、バトラ君。
Too bad, Battler
未
Kun.
来はこの島に惨劇を望んでいるの。
Future wants a tragedy on this
エ
island.
ンジェだって真実を望んでる。
Even NJ wants the truth.
虚飾も幻想もまやかしも、すべて食らい尽くしてあげる
Don't
わ。
worry, don't worry. We'll chew up all the embellishments, the illusions, the fantasy for you. By now, Battler and the others had to admit it. The future wanted a tragedy, and even if the truth of the island was a gentle, peaceful thing, the future didn't want that. The truth they wanted was painting over the past.
過去など儚いものよ。
The past is such a fragile thing.
猫箱さえも食い破る。
Even the cat box is being chewed apart.
なんて奴らなんだ。
Just who are these people?
俺たちをそんなにも惨劇にぶち込みたいってのかよ。
Are they really so determined to plunge us into a tragedy?
私が見せたかったのはこれでおしまい。
That's all I want to show you.
戦況の判断に役立ったならいいんだけど。
Hope this helps a bit when you're making strategic decisions. Like where to go, because Kuadorian would theoretically be safe, right?
ああ、ありがとう。
They don't believe Kuadorian's dangerous, right? So if you went to Kuadorian, you'd be safe?
おかげで最悪の気分。
Now I feel like crap, thanks.
じゃあ次は書斎に行ってちょうだい。
Let's go to the study next, if you don't mind.
ゴールドスミスが呼んでるわ。
Goldsmith wants to talk to you. Gop snapped her fingers, and another black hole swallowed them up and spat them out in the study.
ない。
Ow, 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 ow.
ガープめ。
Yep, you're gonna drop me.
落とすならベッドの上にしろというのだ。
じいさま、まずいぜ。
Grandfather,
俺たちは
we're in
完
trouble.
全に
There's
逃げ
nowhere
場
left
な
to
し
run.
だ。
分かっておる。そしてこのまま立てこもってやり過ごすこと
Even
も
waiting out the
かな
storm from here isn't an option.
ロノウェたちはある程度の時間を稼ぐだろうが、それも一時だろう。
Renove and the others should be able to buy us some time, but that's all. If they just hold up in the mansion, it'd be only a matter of time before the swarm of goats got them. Trying to repel a few of the goats barging into the mansion would be like using a cup to bail water from a boat with a hole in it.
しばらくは防戦できるだろうが、それも時間の問題よ。
We can fight defensively for a while, but it's only a matter of time.
その防戦の間に何かの手を打たなきゃな。
We need to think of something while we fight.
逃げるか
Can we escape?
どこへ
Where
ゲーム
to?
版の外へ逃げる方法はあるのか
Is there any way for us to leave the game board?
ゲーム版の外は我らの領地の外側よ。
The outside of the game board is beyond the range of our
航
territory.
海者の魔女でなければ出ることはかなわぬ。
Only a Voyager witch could leave. Only Burncastel and Lambda Delta could do it. However, there was no way Burncastel would help. And Lambda Delta had already announced she'd be an observer instead of lending a hand.
逃げ場なしか。
So there's nowhere left to run.
いや、一箇所だけある。
But there is one
どこ
place.
に
Where?
黄金鏡だ。
The Golden Land.
なるほど。もはやそれしかあるまいか。
Is that her only option now?
うん。
Indeed.
黄金鏡はこのゲーム版の上で最も不可侵な場所だ。
Golden Land's the most impenetrable place on this game board.
逃れるならそこしかあるまい。
If we wish to escape, it's that or nothing.
猫箱すら食い破るやつらよ。
These things are eating the cat box itself.
黄金鏡とていつ食い破ってくるかわからないわね。
For all we know, they might end up chewing at the Golden Land itself in any moment.
ど
Do
うす
battle.
るバトラよ。
即決する。撤
No
退
point
だ。
thinking about it.
決断が遅れれば
We're
それ
retreating.
さえ
Where
不可
to?
能。全員を黄金鏡へ避難させよう。
If we take too long to make a decision, even that road will be closed to us.
黄金鏡の扉を開くにはどうすればいい？
Evacuate everyone. How can we open the door to the Golden Land?
わらわが扉を開くだけのことよ。
We just have to open
し
it.
かし、あのヤギどもの群れが凄まじき半魔法の毒素を放っておる。
An immense wave of anti-magic toxin emanates from that crowd of goats.
扉が開くのには時間がかかるぞ。
It'll take some time to open the door. Okay.
扉が開くまでこの書斎を死守しろってんだろ。
We gotta protect this study with our lives until the door's open.
やることは何も変わらねえ。
Just have to keep doing what we're doing.
もう一つ問題がある。
One more
黄
problem.
金鏡の扉は外より二人で押さねば閉じられない。
The door to the Golden Land can't be shut unless two people close it from the outside.
外より二人？
Two from the outside?
どういうことだ？
What do you mean? As soon as he said this, Battler realized this must be the result of an agreement made between three witches who are one.
普段ならばわざわざ扉を閉めることもないのだが、
Normally, there's no need to go through the trouble of shutting the door.
今回ばかりはそうもいかぬだ
It
ろう。
won't be so easy this time.
扉を閉める役目はお前とベアとしかおるまいぞ。
Only you two can fulfill the role of shutting the door.
領主の俺とベアと。
Me as Territory Lord and Beato. I like how the second NJ was like, fuck you, Battler. Battler's like, okay, bye. And doesn't even talk to her or even concern himself with NJ. Like, NJ shows up and is like, fuck you, Battler. Tell me the truth. And he's like, nah. And she's like, alright. Ava, you're up. And Ava summons an army of goats. And we're like 30 minutes plus into this crisis. And Battler hasn't even remotely considered asking NJ to stop or trying to entreat with... trying to talk things through with NJ. He's just like, alright, well, no one cares. It's like, isn't this like a massive plot hole? NJ and Ava summon an army of goats in front of everyone, but the goats are miles away, and it's not like no one tries to stop Ava, no one tries to kill Ava so her summoning ritual will end. No one tries to be like, what the fuck, NJ? They kind of just immediately ignore her and write her out of existence. Ignore her like she doesn't exist. It's kind of weird. Like, why is Battler not even reacting to NJ? Like, he should have at least reacted to, like, NJ, what have you done? Like, even a throwaway line like that, where he says that and then runs off to try and deal with this crisis, would have been nice. But instead, like, we haven't even... It's like NJ doesn't exist for the purposes of this scene anymore. Like, it's just NJ commands Ava to spawn in, Ava does something, and Battler forgets NJ exists. Like, I don't get why we're doing this. I know it's because NJ is going to go off and, like, find the manual or some shit. But, like, it feels weird to have him basically forget that NJ exists, this whole crisis. Me as Territory Lord and Beato.
一番無難な人選だな。
Sounds like the safest choice.
我ら二人だけならば身を守ることもなんとかなろうぞ。
If it's just us two, we might even be able to protect ourselves.
よし。
Alright, open the door.
扉を開けてくれ。
Beata waved her pipe, leaving a golden trail behind as she sliced the air vertically. Then the gap of the door to the Golden Land appeared. It looked nothing more than a thin golden string hanging from the ceiling. If you looked closely, you could see the string was getting thicker, slowly. The door to the Golden Land certainly was opening, but so slowly you couldn't even tell if you weren't careful. At this rate, it'd probably take some time before it grew big enough to let a person through.
じい様とガープはこの本丸の守りを頼む。
Grandfather, Gop, we need you to be our inner line of defense.
外壁をよじ登ってくるヤギどもが現れるかもしれんしな。
Maybe goats climbing the outer walls.
心得た。
Very well.
我がライフルは獲物を求めておるわ。
My rifle hungers for some prey.
了解よ。
Understood.
そいつらを奈落の穴に落として遊んでるわ。
It'll be fun dropping them into the abyss. A giant was sliced at an angle, split into two parts, and fell to the floor, showering it with filthy dark blood and guts.
お見事です。
Splendidly done.
次は譲ってやる。
I'll let you take the next one. Can't see his arm from this angle. It looks like it's there, though. Countless massive goats, which forced their way in from rooms and windows all across the mansion, wandered about in search of something to chew. His arm is still present there, right? What is the truth you're revealing? Several of the goats noticed the group of people huddled around the staircase and lumbered closer, but they were pulverized by merciless attacks. Runaways' shields easily halted the charging goats. Virgilia's magic spears pinned the giants against the walls. Eleanor and Will's blades were slicing easily through the goats as well. The pinpoint strikes of the Seven Sisters of Purgatory could pierce the vitals of and finish off any opponent, no matter how large. The Siestra sisters were holding their own too. They'd blasted enough goats to bits with one shot from their high-caliber firearms. You couldn't count the kills with both hands. Given a limited number of opponents, they were more than a match for these goats. However, they weren't just up against a crowd, but an entire ocean. It was like a pebble trying to face the approaching waves of a stormy sea. Hurry on that gun barrel replacement! Requesting cover from the Purgatory troops! You run out of ammo when you're nothing but rabbits? That was a gun barrel. They overheated the barrel? Good work. Lame.
7人がかりで一度に1匹しか殺せない文鎮どもに言われたくないに。
I don't want to hear that from a bunch of 7 paperweights who can only kill one person at a time.
さあ、どんどんかかってらっしゃい。 私たちを退屈させないで。
Don't let us get bored. The hall was filled with massive goat corpses. As if in fear of this sight, the goats that came in one after another formed a wall, keeping their distance.
私たちにかなわないと思ってくれているのでしょうか。
それを期待したいところですが、それは甘いようです。
It's a little more than wishful thinking.
こいつら何なの？私たちを見て、ボソボソと喋り合ってるわ。
They're looking at us and whispering to each other.
どうやら会話をして連携できる程度の知能があるようだな。
Apparently they have the intelligence to talk together and cooperate. Goats surrounded them at a distance, whispering. Then they nodded at each other as though deciding something, and the whole group stirred. What are they doing? It almost looks like they're lining up in a different order.
敵、陣形を変更。
Enemies adjusting its
より
formation.
突破力のある個体に最前列を譲ってもらと推定。
Appears individuals with greater destructive power are being gathered in the front lines.
だからなんだというの。
What, let's
行く
go.
わよ、お前たち。
はい、お姉さん。
お待ちなさい。
Wait,
相手の様子が変です。
Lucifer took aim at one of them, going for its forehead. The other 6 sisters followed her lead, trying to pierce the vital organs all over its body. However, there was no sound of pierced flesh. The 7 sisters of Purgatory were knocked back, unable to cause even the smallest wound.
何？どういうこと？
Just happened.
こいつら何か喋ってるわ。
Talking about something. Goats kept whispering the same thing over and over as they slowly approached the 7 sisters. All of them whispered unanimously. All fantasy is fictional. 7 Sisters of Purgatory are illusions, personifying stakes for ceremonial sacrifices. They're actually paperweights. They're actually paperweights. As they whispered curses that deny the 7 Sisters' existence, the ghosts lumbered closer.
煉獄隊を下がって。
Get back, Purgatory troops! We'll cover you!
ヤギども、教育してやる。
It's time you learned a lesson, goats. I mean, you can say the stakes aren't real, but the Siestra sisters probably are. Or are they not? There we go. The golden bows of the Siestra troops mowed down the wall of goats with a shower of bright golden bullets. Some of the goats were torn to pieces, but some of them seemed completely unaffected. Then the goats who were uninjured all whispered as one. The Siestra sisters' Imperial Guards have Maria's rabbit dolls as their vessels. They're actually rabbit dolls. Aria's imagination, fantasy, fictional beings. Oof. Not looking good. All of the crimes can be explained by mystery. All fantasy is irrelevant. Looks like
魔法を認めない連中もいっぱいいるみたいだわ。
we got a lot of people who won't accept the existence of magic.
認めないということは
And that means
魔法の攻撃が一切通用しないということだわ。
no magical attacks will have effect on them.
それじゃあ私たちの攻撃は通用しない
I
って
mean,
こ
all our
と？
attacks will be completely useless.
エンドレスナインに
Endless nine.
私たちを認めてくれなきゃ攻撃も通じないに。
Don't accept we exist, our attacks can't hurt them. Yeah.
そんなことが。
Is that possible? Apparently so.
試してみるのが一番です
We'll
な
have to test it. Runaway stepped forward, stamped on the floor twice, and a red barrier rose up in front of him. The crowd of goats dashed into it with terrifying force. While some were blown away, several slipped right through the magical barrier. Runaway is a creature of magic, a creature of fiction. Genji is Runaway's vessel. He's an imaginary version of Genji.
なるほど。私の攻撃も一切通じない連中がい
Some
る
of
よう
my
ですな。
attacks won't affect all of them. There was no longer any point in Virgilia trying at her magic spear. Now that some of the goats had decided her existence was fictional, she could no longer harm them. Even these great demons and great witches, as well as high-level furniture and weapons, were overcome with fear of the crowd that surrounded them. A crowd that wouldn't be affected by any of their attacks.
どうすんのよ私た
What do we
ち。
do now? Inzo has a gun.
最後の一発まで戦
Keep
うのだ
fighting until the end.
貴様らの戦士は許可しない
You don't have permission to die in battle. Fantasy is all fiction. Fantasy is all fiction. Man, I don't know if they're actually speaking Japanese or if it's intentionally heavily distorted, but it does not sound like they are speaking anything in particular. Like, it sounds heavily distorted, like there's aliens. Oh, that sounded right. Genso. Fantasy is all fiction. That one sounded like speech. Very strange, heavily modulated speech, but it worked. A shriek from one of the goats became a signal for the wall of them to break. They pushed forward with gaping mouths and foul breath, each trying to reach their prey first, trying to return these fictional creatures to nothingness.
危ないお前たち
Virgilia leapt in front of and held several of the seven sisters who had fallen on their rears, overpowered by the ferocity of the approaching goats. However, even Virgilia was a fictional creature to these goats. They could chew through her like cotton candy.
まだ今のうちに
At him, quickly. Runaway threw himself at the oncoming goats, even though he would be chewed apart easily. Knowing this, Runaway leapt forward.
魔法が通じずともこのロノ
Even if my magic no longer
忠義
functions.
に熱き熱血漢である事実は揺らぎません
Still the fiercely passionate and loyal man I
ま
always
してや
was. Furthermore,
不女子を見捨てることがあるとお思いで
did you think I would sit by and watch a lady die? Runaway's fantasy, Runaway's fantasy. Runaway slammed his right fist into the side of a goat's face, and as soon as he pulled it back, he swung his left leg into its gut, spinning around into a reverse roundhouse that caught the goat again. Runaway knew. He could do less damage than a mosquito bite against those who didn't accept his existence, but that was the height of anti-magic defensive power. Endless 9. Runaway's fantasy of fiction. The goat swung its log-like fist with a sound like a storm. Runaway dodged by a hair. Had he been an instant slower, the massive arm would have crushed his head like glass.
ロノウェ
What are you doing, Virgilia? Get moving.
よして逃げて
Ah,
このロ
classic.
ノ
I,
ご
Runaway.
婦人のピンチを前にはついつい奮い立って
Cannot
しまい
help
ま
but
す
rise to the challenge when I see a lady in a pinch.
私の悪い
A
癖
bad habit of mine. Runaway grinned and tried to act tough. He already sacrificed all he had. There was nothing he could do here and now except become a shield to buy time. He'd already chosen to abandon his life for this. Runabe is a fantasy. He couldn't exist. He couldn't possibly exist. Illusions don't exist. They don't exist. Fantasy is all ridiculous. Ridiculous. The goats kept coming, trying to feast on Runabe. Not had any pretense of making this a one-on-one fight. Nothing mattered but chewing apart fantasy, even just a nibble. As they gnashed those ruthless jaws and fangs, they closed in on Runabe. Runabe's foot hit something and he stumbled. At the same instant, several massive arms reached out and lifted him up. Doing gestures, shoot them. Didn't do anything, we would have done it already.
皆さんどうかお下がりを。
Everyone, please stand
私
back.
を夢中でかじる間は多少は時間が稼げる
I
でしょ
should be able to buy you some time as they savor my flesh.
しかしこの炉の上少し小骨が多いかもしれませんぞ。
However, I think they'll find that Runabe has quite a few little bones in him. An elbow rammed itself into the massive, hideous jaws that were trying to chew his head. Of course, the goat did moan, but that did nothing but deprive just one goat of his right to the first bite of Runabe's head. Many jaws opened wide, trying to crush him and throw him down into those heartless stomachs, which would permit no cheerful illusions to exist. I won't accept fantasy, I won't. Possible to explain everything in mystery possible. Fantasy is big, everything is mystery. All the many arms that lifted Runabe up were sliced off. The seven sisters used this chance to fly forward and grab Runabe, dragging him back.
ミステリーとおっしゃった方はどなたですか？
If you mentioned mystery?
ドラノールの刃は通じるの？
Lanor's blade work on them?
そうか。相手がミステリーを主張するのなら。
If our foes call it a mystery. Interesting. Then she should be good, right? The blood-red longsword in hand, Delanor slowly walked forward. That's gonna be fun. Delanor's ready to go. Behind her walked Will, tapping his back with his black blade. Ready to rock, you two?
ファンタジーじゃねえってなら
If you don't think this is a fantasy,
聞こうじゃねえか
let's have
お
your
前らの推
theories.
理
Let's have it.
皆さんのご考説、とても楽しみです。
I can't wait to hear your explanations. The crowd of goats stepped back. Though they'd been so vicious against illusions, they stepped back when faced with this pair wielding swords of mystery. Well, you have to actually solve that mystery, right? If you want to say fantasy's not real, I guess they have to solve the mysteries or come up with an answer that they can't answer in red/black.
このゲーム版で行われた密室殺人の数々。
There have been a great many closed room murders on this
ど
game
れか
board.
らでも受けて立ちましょう。
Choose whichever you please. We'll parry all your attacks.
違うぜ
No.
受けて立つのは俺らじゃね
We don't have to defend anything.
そうでした。
Indeed.
ミステリーとは挑むもの。
The purpose of a mystery is to offer a
なぜ
challenge.
に私たちが受けて立たねばというのか。
There's no need to play
え
defense.
分かってんだろうな
Do you get
お
it
前
yet?
ら
You're the ones in the hot seat now. Blue Truth cut the goats apart. The Blue Truth dwelt in each and every one of the riddles from Beato's games so far. What about the closed room with the chain, the first game, second Twilight? What about the closed room at the chapel, second game, first Twilight? What about the trick to killing Nanjo, third game, ninth Twilight? There was no end to the blades. There's a lot of goats, but no end to dead goats now. How big does the pile of goats get? If their bodies don't disappear as it's indicated, cutting them down should make it absurdly hard for them to get into the room. The countless riddles of Beatrice had left behind became blades, challenges that tore the goats apart. If they wanted to deny fantasy, they'd have to make a counter-argument. They'd have to deal with every trick as a mystery. Whoever were most goats called themselves anti-fantasy, they hadn't thought of any answers for the mystery. Though every now and then goats with answers did appear. Someone outside the Ashiramiya family was hiding on the island and... goodbye.
ノックス第1条犯人は物語当初の登場人物以外は禁ず
Nox is first. It's forbidden for the culprit to be anyone he mentioned, not mentioned in the early part of the story. There were multiple culprits working separately. Oh, it happened to look like a single culprit. Van Dyne's 12. Wait a minute, we just had one where there was multiple culprits working together. There must be but one true culprit. Starts sweating nervously. Our last whodunit straight up had 3 people as the answer. Everything but that is forbidden? Having a genre like that? Personally, I think mysteries ought to be a little more flexible. The 10 Nox commandments, the 20 Van Dyne rules, they're behind the times. The definition of the mystery genre should change with the era. And now they get up to be. Now, of course, perhaps we are behind the times. In that case, let's see if you have any theories that satisfy us. Come. The whole crowd of goats charged them, and their fangs each carried a theory to crush Beatoad's closed rooms. The bodies of these goats differed from those who'd become corpses so easily. They had mystery-style answers to closed rooms. It would take several blade hits to give them a fatal wound. However, Beato left many blades behind, all of them exceedingly sharp, so the pair of Inquisitors didn't think this would be a desperate battle. This is mystery. The goal is to use all your imagination and knowledge to challenge each of the riddles head-on. Doing so is the greatest pleasure of the mystery genre, so they laughed. Both Will and Delanor laughed. With smiles of admiration at the theories the goats put everything they had into, they countered with blades from all the closed rooms. The crowd of goats was no longer an encirclement, but a great wave threatening to swallow the pair up. I thought the bodies didn't respawn and they were starting to pile up. Apparently not. And yet the pair repelled the enemy without giving an inch. It's okay. It's okay. It's all just a metaphor. They're being creative. We don't need to worry about this. It resisted firmly, cutting through the wave of wailing goats. It was like an ice-breaking ship knocking a path through a frozen sea. They entered the closed room through a hidden passage no one else could use, and... Nox is third, forbidden for hidden passages to exist. I gotta be honest. It's impressive to hear any 10 people say this in unison. Arbitrarily. That's impressive. Without any prompting. They all say after the hidden passage was used, it was welded shut and became unusable, so no hidden passages existed at the time of the inspection. It's forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. Nox is 8. Look at Delanor. She's holding this in her right hand, right? Interesting. The blade actually looks curved and very short. Like a dagger? Because you can see her left hand is empty. This is her right hand. It looks like the blade actually doesn't look like it extends past like 3 inches from her hand. I can only assume it's like a magic whip blade, that it's actually like extending now, or it basically like returns to a straight position when you stop moving it, or it's just like the energy just trails behind the further out it is, like it moves at a fixed rate. So like the stuff at the edge of the blade, the stuff at the tip of the blade actually moves at the same speed as the stuff at the handle of the blade. Bad job with foreshortening. No, the arm looks fine. It's that the sword, if the sword itself looks like it's like 2 inches long, so I'm assuming the sword curves. I'm just thinking of how it would work. Like, you know, it's like Altera's longsword. It's like Altera's longsword, I think. Fate. Where it's actually, the Sword of Mars is a straight sword, but when she swings it, it actually curves. Like, it's not actually a blade. That's what I'm thinking is actually happening here. So, like, when you swing it with a lot of force, it bends a lot. But it somehow magically regains its rigidity when you stop swinging it. Magic swords, guys. These are all fake murders. No one's actually dead. No, all closed rooms were constructed by so-called victims. Glenar hesitated just for an instant. After all, this cliched and simple theory managed to get around both Beato's closed rooms and the Nox commandments. Glenar saw nothingness inside that goat's massive jaws.
Van Dyne第7則
Van
死体なき
Dyne
事件であることを禁ず
It's forbidden to have a crime without a corpse. Goat's jaws seemed to close around Delanor's head. However, the upper and lower jaws were no longer connected, so the upper half merely slid off to the side.
ダイノックスも狂言殺人までは封じ損ねたな
I guess even the Great Nox forgot to forbid fake murders.
殺人以外のミステリーも立派なミステリーです。
There are many splendid mysteries besides murder. True. The goats weren't about to back off and let the pair have a nice long chat about the mystery genre. No. The next massive figure immediately enveloped them. Will's blade drew a diagonal slash across its chest, but it only cut through its clothes, leaving no wound.
こいつ20のくさびが
The
通
20
用しね
wedges don't work on this one. Glenar also hit it with her longsword, but still it just cut its clothes without leaving a mark on its body. Could this goat have a theory that doesn't violate either Nox or Van Dyne? Nox and Van Dyne are meaningless? All closed rooms can be explained by a single solution. After all. In an attempt to stop the goat from saying any more, Will and Delanor hit it with blades from every closed room, as well as stakes from the 10 Commandments and 20 Rules, but none of them had any effect. Slowly the goat clenched its massive fists together and raised them up high. After all. With a roar, Will slammed into the goat giant with his body. Though its massive bulk bent back slightly, Will was still leaping into a death trap. However, if he hadn't done so, he wouldn't have been able to protect Delanor. The goat grabbed Will, it lifted him up and held him high in the air. It was like a little kid showing off his favorite toy and waving it around. Let's hear your theory.
名推理が聞けて散れるならライトの最後にはふさわしいだろうよ
Hope to hear a great theory before I die. It'll be a fitting end for a right. Van Dyne or Nox are useless for making theories. Goat's massive hands closed on Will like a vice. All the bones in his body were creaking. Let's hear your theory. There's no need for a theory. It's a mystery with no theory. After all, making theories for Beatrice's game is a waste of time.
それはどういう意味だ。
こんなのは本格推理じゃない。考えるだけ時間の問題だ。
It's not an orthodox mystery, so thinking about it's a waste of time. They'll retroact. I mean, it's a good it's an okay argument. It's an okay argument. I don't think it's a terrible one. A more interesting one is that they'll introduce new rules that retroactively bring into question the old rules, so you can't come to any conclusions. But that works. Okay. I won't accept Beatrice's game as a mystery. There are no answers to the tricks. There are probably answers to the tricks. And about half of them could be solved by answering them, so that doesn't seem like a good answer. It's all an illusion. Thinking is just a waste of time. Will's head was lowered so his face couldn't be seen. However, the arm of the goat holding him was shaking. The embrace of those log-sized arms with superhuman strength was slowly being pushed away by Will's shaking arms. Thinking is just a waste of time.
ミステリーを語ってその言葉を口にするのか。
You say that and you call yourself a mystery novel reader? The goat is probably someone who gave up after episode 2. Yeah, I probably wouldn't give up there. I mean, like, I think my reasoning was fairly solid, that if they're gonna write things in a story that will retcon the past, you don't have enough information to solve it because the information you're given is inaccurate, or can't be, or could be brought into question. Up until the exact last minute where it's revealed. That's a better argument, but this is okay. I guess it's okay. But I would say it is intended to entertain you. Whether or not the author is efficient with their time is a different story. Got yourself a mystery novel reader? The mystery genre is like chivalry.
自らの掲げた高潔なルールで挑む。その姿勢を誇るもんなんだよ。
Fight with the noble rules you created with pride in the stance you've
勝て
taken.
ば卑怯でいいのか。どんなに気高く戦っても負ければ意味はないのか。
Is it worth being a coward if it'll help you win? Does losing make the whole fight meaningless if you fought with everything you had?
勝ち負けじゃねえだろ。それでも戦う気高さを誇るもんだろう。
It's not about winning and losing, it's about applauding the will to fight even in the most dire of circumstances. There's nothing that was retcon. There are rules you didn't figure out that you could have if you tried. I mean, there are rules like blue truth can be rejected, which are blue truths being propositions from the user can be rejected arbitrarily. Now, it might be because the answer isn't correct and they don't want to give you it, but saying you can't, there are things you can't use as evidence means you don't know which things you're not allowed to use as evidence. And saying things like red truths aren't valid means you also don't know what red truths are valid at any point unless they clearly define how you undefine red truths and use it consistently, which they didn't do. So, since you can't even know if red truths are real, or what you can actually use as an argument, you get into a lot more suspicious moments where all the red truths can be questioned. Reds were always true. Reds were not always true. The red truth that Natsuhi isn't the killer was rejected. And since you can reject red truth, you can reject red truth there. You can reject red truth there, so you can always, since you can reject red truth at any point, every red truth is brought into question until they explain exactly how and why it can be done. And they then inconsistently used red truth in the next trial when they had someone produce red truth that shouldn't have been able to use red truth based on the reasoning that they denied the red truth in the previous arc which means you still don't know what it is. Yes, it's still true, but you can't use it in an argument. Okay. So, okay. So, you know what? I'm okay with that. You know why? Because then I can just say, I can reject, or the story can tell me that any of the red truths they told me are not valid pieces to use in an argument to construct my theory of the truth. And I don't know which ones. That's the problem. If they can say, you can't use this to construct the truth, or you can't use it in an argument, so I can say like, well, okay, you know, this is true because they said there's no hidden passages. I can say, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to use the no hidden passages argument here. I could just use, it could actually be a hidden passages, even though they directly said there's no hidden passages. Because it could just be, it could be something I can't use in an argument to construct the truth, and that can be for all of the statements. So then I don't know what I'm supposed to be able to use, because I can't use any of the red truth, I can't use any of the stuff that actually happened in the story, because all the story stuff is, because the story is not objectively told, and you're supposed to use the red truth to assist you in that matter. I don't know whether I can trust the text people say. I don't know, like, obviously you can't trust that the magic is real, right? Like, the story's told via unreliable narrator a lot of the time, so you don't have any way to determine truth. Beato said in episode 2, only she, a witch, can use red without proof. And then, yeah, and then they also said, like, only she, a witch, can. So? As long as you have evidence, you can use any argument. Okay, the red without proof are only there to help you find the evidence. Yeah, as long as you have evidence, you can use any argument. And the reds without proof only to help you find the evidence. Okay, so okay, so you can use any argument, but you don't need how about the window? The window in the case that Delanor sealed away. She literally banned an argument that you had evidence because they didn't give you information for. What else can you ban? So that's an argument against it. Beato said in episode 2 you can use only she, a witch, can use red without truth. Only I, as a witch, can use red without proof. Red was used by Virgilia, who's a witch. Therefore, the red's true. And then turning around, a non-witch uses red truth. Like, when Delanor is introduced, she immediately uses red truth. Like, 5 minutes after she's introduced, every single one of her red truths is a non-witch using red truth, so it's inconsistent. Because she's not a witch, she's like some inquisitor shit. That's apparently not a witch. Unless we say that Delanor is a witch. Or Ronove's a witch. Now, presumably, these are pieces of a witch and acting as her avatars? But that's not necessarily the case when Delanor's around, because Delanor isn't her avatar. Beatrice is no longer in control of the game, and it's a new character created by Erica, who is a puppet of Burn Castell, who is also not like the game master. Anyway. It was the wrong answer, the window one? Of course. That's not important, though. The point is that you can reject evidence or propositions, or the ability to use such evidence or propositions, groundlessly, so you don't know when the story's going to tell you can't use an argument. It will never be explained? Of course it won't be. I mean, that's my complaint. It's not being clearly told to you. You're supposed to figure out who can use absolute truth and whether the red truth they attempt to use is absolutely true or can be actually used, which is kind of annoying. Which is both annoying and not knowable, because you again don't know if you can use your own arguments, because the argument can be banned later after you come up with it, even if it's wrong. Like, the argument's a question, but like, I don't know if it could just be arbitrarily rejected, which is like which is a really bad way to do things. Just to arbitrarily reject the hypothesis rather than like give you an answer, or to be like, okay, well, we don't know yet. Anyway, now the goat's arms are spread wide. It looked as though Will was the one pushing it back. Will's face was covered in shadow and couldn't be seen. Burn said in episode 1, you have to figure out the rules by yourself. There was something brought up early in the story.
ミステリーを語るやつがよ。
People like you call themselves mystery readers even though they never even try to solve mysteries.
俺は一番気に入られんだよ。
You're the ones I can't stand. Will slammed his forehead into the goat's now unprotected head.
ミステリーを語るなら思考で戦う姿勢を誇れ。
You call yourself a mystery reader, be proud to join in on a battle with.
ミステリーを語るなら二度と思考の停止を。
The purpose of a game is to solve it, and I'm saying if they don't give you enough information to solve it, or you have no way of knowing whether or not any of the information you have, literally anything you see in the game or any information you have is true, because they've just invented 2 new ways to deny your ability to do anything, or know literally anything. Like, you may as well just only know the fact that there might be people on an island, that there might be murders. As a result, you have no way of knowing anything. Like, every single scene can be a fabrication. Every single one of them. It's not an unreasonable thing to say. If every single scene can be a fabrication or something you can't use in an argument, you have no way to form a foundation for even simple truths like whether or not someone's dead. So, like, the game can straight up tell you that this person got decapitated and that their head was put on a fucking pike and everyone saw it, and you can literally deny that. So it's like, okay, well, that's a thing. Sure. I have no way of knowing if that's true or not, and there's no way of knowing even until the end of the story, based on how they've, like, defined their new rules. That's the issue. That's the issue, is that literally not a single scene in the story can be known to be true. And even any conclusions you come to about the rules based on what people say about the rules is now, like, also in question, which is a huge problem. So, like, they say the red truth is true, and they say the red is true, and only it has to be absolutely true, and then you have to question it because the red truth can be rejected in the first place. Or, like, blue are your propositions, and you can make as many as you want based on whatever you want that isn't rejected by red truth, and then they turn around and reject it by that red truth. Means, like, it's really inconsistent because you don't even know if the way they're using it's right. You can know so you make a reasonable assumption that parts of the magic scenes are true, based on the fact that other things happen, and that, like, people are using red truth to say that they're dead. That's how, like, you said. So you see a long magic scene, and the end result is that somebody is dead, and you can say, well, this part of the magic scene didn't happen, but these other parts probably happened, and you come to the conclusion that way, based on, like, what you know about the end state. But if you don't actually know that the end state's true, you don't actually know if anything happened. Alright, if you call yourself a mystery reader, it's about time you realized giving up's nothing to brag about? Probably, yeah. Will hit it with his head over and over again. His forehead had been torn apart by the goat's fangs, but he kept on hitting it. Van Dyne and Nox may be behind the times, but the mystery genre does progress with time, like the world around it. However, there is one thing that never changes. That is pride. What is the knight proud of? Not victory. He's proud of his courage, which lets him stand up to anyone without fear. Will couldn't forgive the kind of coward who would turn tail from a fight and brag about it. People who call themselves mystery readers, but who have no pride, are the only people Will can't stand. The goat, unable to put up with this anymore, threw Will to the floor, and then he lifted his fists again, determined to crush Will to pieces this time. Come. You'll probably beat me to a pulp. That'll be no victory for you. You'll destroy your own pride with your own hands? There's no mystery, so I make theories. Thinking's a waste of time. The magic scenes are more complex than that. I mean, I realize there are some things going on with some of the magical scenes that give you hints as to what's going on in them. But I'm still saying, since you can reject parts or all of it, if you can reject parts of all of it and have no foundation for any of your knowledge that you can establish, you don't have a way to determine anything. Basically, like, without love it can't be seen. Yeah. A fist like a cannonball swinging down towards him was the last thing Will saw before he shut his eyes. In this game, if you stop thinking.
このゲームじゃ敗北ってことになってるぜ。
In this game, if you give up, it means you lose, right? Battler smashed his fist into the goat's mouth, and smashed teeth bounced off the ceiling.
バトラ様。
Battler-sama?
思考停止ってことはミステリーであることを諦めたってことだぜ。
If you stop thinking, it means you've given up on the story being a
っ
mystery.
てことはお前にとってはこのゲームはファンタジーってことだ
This
な。
means, as far as you're concerned, this game is a fantasy. Battler lifted up his arm, realizing this is a signal. Lucifer and Chester
思考を
00
止めたな
jumped.
らお前はもう舞台の上にいるべき役者じゃねえ。
If you stop thinking, you don't deserve to be an actor on the stage. Stop trying to sound smart. Go eat some popcorn from the stand or
ポップコーンでも
something.
食ってろよ。
Goat lifted his fist again, swung it down at Battler like a hammer.
ファンタジーに屈したなら
If you've surrendered to fantasy,
ただの的でしかない
it
に
makes you another target. Yeah.
それはすなわち私たちの存在を認
Same
め
as
るも同じ
acknowledging
という
we exist.
敵識別を開始
Begin recognition of hostile
魔法
elements.
攻撃可能な個体を HMD にマーキング
Mark all targets vulnerable to magic attacks in our HMDs.
ファンタジーに屈服してる子は私たちが相手してあげる
I like how intense 51. Is this 51? I think it's 51. No, 45, right? I like how intense 45 looks here. Every time she has that face, I love it. Kids who surrender to fantasy get to deal with us.
推理があるならば我らが伺い
If
ま
you
し
have
ょ
a
う
theory, we'll hear it out.
そういう輩は大歓迎だぜ。
We'll welcome those people with open
敬
arms.
意を示して全力で受け止めてやろ
Out of
う。
respect for them, we'll hold nothing back.
おっと、しかしここはバトラ様の見せ場のようですな。
It would seem this is Battler Summer's time to shine.
ミステリーもファンタジーも
I'd
お
like
前
to
ら
listen
自
to all your
慢
favorite
のご
theories,
口
both
説をゆ
mystery and
っくり
fantasy.
と拝聴してところだがな。しかし今回はお前らのゲームじゃな
This
い。
isn't your game right
お
now.
前ら未来のかけらがどんなに否定しようとも
No matter how much you future fragments
にはいかねえん
try
だ
to
よ。
deny us, it's no time for me to be defeated. A golden glint gathered in Battler's hand. It was so bright the whole hall was bathed in gold, and golden butterflies flitted about as though the whole room was being swallowed by the golden land. Battler lifted his
ミ
golden
ステリー
longsword
もフ
high.
ァンタジーもベアとのゲームに挑む姿勢は大いに
Kratos'
結
game is a
構
mystery or a
歓
fantasy.
迎もする。
I welcome it,
俺のこの
but I'm not gonna let you deny
最
this
後の
final
ゲー
game
ムの
of
否定だ
mine.
けは眠る者の尊厳を傷つける不謹慎を知れ。
Feel the shame of your indiscretion, the impunging of honor of those who have passed away. A slice of the golden longsword flooded the hall with a sea of golden light. Then the whole group of goats clambering around the hall turned into clouds of gold butterflies and scattered. Even so, only about 100 had been wiped out. Before long, the massive crowd of goats outside would probably come pouring in.
ガートルードたちの封印はもう少しだ。
The seal Gertrude and the others are working on will be finished in a
すまない
moment.
がもうしばらくここを持ちこたえてくれ。
Sorry, but I'll ask you to hold out here a little longer.
もちろんだよバトラ卿。
Why, of course, Lord Battler.
それくらいしか私たちに見せ場はな
You
い
wouldn't
し
get to show off. Zapar and Furfur haven't done any fighting, that's true.
お前らも少しは戦ってもいいんだぞ。
He says the same thing. You know, you two could try fighting just a little.
だって
But
私たちは
we're
司会者だし。
just the MCs! Why are you here then? Their excessively blunt refusal drew a few strained smiles. However, it lessened the tension in the room a bit.
バトラ様ここは私たちにお任せを
Battler, leave it to us. I'm like,
こ
they
れ以
haven't
上
done
の
shit. Why
侵
are they
食
even
を許しは
here?
しません
And they just straight up are just like, we're just here to make announcements. We won't allow the erosion to proceed any further.
そして私たちの誰も決してかけるこ
Not
と
one
は
of
あ
us
り
will
ま
be
せ
left
ん
behind.
無論ですなぜなら私たちもバトラ卿のゲーム版の大切な駒なのですから
We're all precious pieces on Lord Battler's game board. The seven sisters of Purgatory, the Chester, Sister Core, and everyone else nodded forcefully.
ああ頼むぜみん
Counting on
な。
all of you.
エンジのための最後のゲーム。絶
Definitely
対に
protect
守る
this
ぞ。
final game I made for NJ.
下はなんとか持ちこたえてる。
They're managing to hold their ground below, down below.
黄金鏡の扉もゆっくりと
Door
開き
continues
続けている
opening
ぞ。
slowly.
まだ時間がかかるがな。
It'll still take some time though. How much space is there? Honestly, like, you don't need that much space. How much? Assuming that the edges of the Golden Land do not like cut like the edges of a gateway, a magical gateway, okay? Assuming they aren't like lethal or cause damage. Nanjo's too fat. Yeah, but I mean like assuming the edges aren't that wide, you need less than a foot. I think you could get through with like a foot, easy, right? Like you go through sideways, one at a time. Most people could fit through with about a foot of space. Even like Beatrice with her dress, like I guess you just take a knife to the dress or just, you know, bend the fabric a bit, assuming it's not like an erosive edge, but like some antimatter edge that instantly kills you or some shit. If only Nanjo did more cardio, they'd all be saved. Unfortunately, Nanjo is like 300 pounds. He's a little bit overweight, so they have to get the door open an extra foot so he can get through. Everyone dies because Nanjo ate a couple too many snacks. If only he cut down on the lard at home, he'd be okay. A few pounds of lard a week ended up costing everyone their lives.
そういうわけだ。
Right.
俺たちも時間を稼がねえとな。
We'd better start buying some time ourselves. That said, to be fair, maybe the speed at which the gate opens is not linear in nature and is exponential. So, maybe it starts out moving like an atom at a fucking time, and by the time it's up to like a millimeter, it's like 1 millimeters, it's like 1 millimeters, 5 millimeters, 10 millimeters in like a second. So like it goes insanely fast. So once it's open, like once it's open like 5 inches, it's just boom, it's open as wide as you want it to be. So like 5 inches, and then like within 10 seconds, it's 5 feet, and you don't care, right? Let's just assume that's the case. That it's exponential instead of a linear portal opening. Alright, the sea of ghosts that covered the ground below them was jostling about more and more. By now, even the sea surrounding the island had disappeared. The horizon was gone, and the chewed-up island was floating in an eerie emptiness like space. The ghosts that flooded the edges of Rokkenjima were spilling off the sides.
このゲーム版は
Looks like that's it for this game board.
ゲームマスターがいて、コマが揃ってさえいれば、
So long as there's a game master in
いつ
pieces,
かゲーム版などまた広げられ
the
る。
game board can always be laid out again.
ゲームなど人が2人揃いさえすれば何だってできるのだからな。
As long as you have 2 people together, you can create any sort of game.
そうだな。
True. Where on earth is NJ?
エンジは一体どこへ。
例のあれは
Oh,
どこ
where
に
did you
隠した
hide that?
そうだ。
That's right, the
礼
chapel.
拝堂。礼拝堂はどうなってる。
What happened to the chapel?
まだ残っている。
It's still there. The chapel looked like a white building floating in the pitch black sea of goats. Yep, that's strange. There's no way those goats who consumed everything would go out of their way to avoid the chapel. It's almost like someone summoned them. Like the person who was right in front of you when they did that. That's where NJ is, no shit. Outside the chapel was a sea of goats. Very soon, the earth around the chapel would be eaten away, and it would probably end up floating on nothingness. The rampage of the goats as they devoured everything and recited the tragedies they imagined was truly making a lot of noise. However, none of it reached the inside chapel. NJ finally broke the magic seal on the entrance and stepped inside. The seal was supposedly unbreakable by anyone. However, in the face of NJ Beatrice, Witch of Truth, the one who sought the truth and could sweep aside all forces that prevented her from finding it, no barrier was absolute.
あれね。
And there it is. A single book, tightly locked, rested on the altar. The hidden diary that Ushirimiya Eva had continued to write even in her later years. The Book of the Single Truth. It was one Featherine had shown her in the world of 1998. This time I have the key. I gripped the gold key that sat in my pocket, the key Oni-chan gave me. As I approached the altar, I saw the Book of the Single Truth was wrapped in a strange bending of the light.
ベルンカステルの言っていたゲームマスターの封印とかいうやつね。
So this is that seal the Game Master Berncastel talked about? The Book of the Single Truth was sealed in something like a crystal. It was a seal made by the Game Master's authority. It was on a different level than the breakable magic seal in the chapel door. No matter how NJ used her power as a Witch of Truth, this couldn't be broken by anyone but the Game Master. However, this time, Battler wasn't the only Game Master.
悪いわね、お兄ちゃん。
Sorry, Oni-chan.
ベルンカステルだってゲームマスター。
Berncastel's a Game Master
持っ
too.
て行って封印を解いてもらえばいいだけの話だ
I just need to take this to her and have her break the seal. NJ slowly approached the altar.
エンジェは素直にそなたの言うことを
Did
聞
you
くだろ
really
う
do as you say?
俺の妹なら素直には聞かねえだろうな。
My little sister we're talking about, so yeah, probably not.
ならばどうする？
What do we do?
力ずくしかねえだろうぜ。
Looks like we've got nothing to go on but brute force. At that moment, a fierce impact hit the pair of them. Beato was flung away, and Battler was sealed inside a massive crystal that's extended up to the heavens.
くそ！なんだこりゃ。
バトラー！
Battler? What's this?
なんだこれは！
It was a barrier, a massive cage of crystal. Battler was shut inside a crystal cage like a tower so large you had to look up to see the top.
ベアト、お前はエンジを頼め。
Beato, take care of
そな
NJ.
たはどうする？
What about
これを一人で内側より破れるというの
Can you
か？
break from this by yourself from the
この
inside?
結界は密室結界。
Is this a closed room
誰
barrier?
がこんなものを？
Berncastel?
俺に密室で挑もうとするやつなんて。
There's only one person who
一人しか
challenged
いね
me
え
with a
ぜ。
closed room.
どうやら最後の客がようやく到着
Looks
し
like
た
our
ようだ
final
な。
guest has arrived. Would that be Erica?
まさか。
Tell me.
行け！エンジを頼む！
Go ahead and take care of NJ. Beato left Battler to handle this on his own and headed for the chapel. Battler took a deep breath and smiled daringly.
待ってたぜ。
I've been waiting for you.
退屈だったか？忘却の深淵とやらは。
In the depths of that oblivion place? The answer was a laugh. That's right. The laugh is enough.
元気そうじゃねえか。
Looks like you're doing well.
退屈ではありませんでし
It
た。
wasn't boring.
だって信じてましたから。
After all, I believed.
だろうな。
Oh, I bet you did.
俺も信じてたぜ。
And I believed too. Getting bailed out. Battler flung off the cape of the Territory Lord. It would only get in the way, and it would be a rude way to welcome his final guest.
あの暗い深淵は
Those dark depths.
次にあなたに再会できたならどんなミステリーで戦ってやろうかと思案するには、実にちょうどいい場所でした。
They're the perfect place to think up mysteries I could fight you with when we met again.
この水晶の檻は俺たちの決闘のリングってわけか。
This crystal cage is the ring for our
逃げ場
duel.
なしのチェーンデスマッチってわけだ。
A chain death match with nowhere to run.
思えば私たち
Now that you mention it,
いつもチェーンの密室をめぐって戦ってましたね。
we're always fighting with over closed rooms with chain. It's just a thing you guys like to do. I'm sorry.
ならそうするか。
Let's use that.
ま
then.
さにチェーンデスマッチってわけだ。
Make it a real chain death match.
私に準備はありますが、あなたはどうです？
I'm prepared, but what about you?
あるさ。
I'm prepared. I told you,
言った
didn't I?
ろ。俺も信じてたって。
I believe too. At the same time, they both brandished their mysteries, sealing each other in a chained, closed room.
来い！
Come, Furudo Erica!
楽しませてもらいますよバトラさん
Timmy Battler song! And with that, our mystery duel begins. Erica and Battler, both sealed inside a closed room locked with a chain, beginning their duel to, I guess, to determine NJ's fate. Or at least whether or not she opens the book. I'm not quite sure what we're fighting over here, but sounds cool. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to this one tonight.